they can now see and hear you, but we cannot hear them.
Are there people remotely?
There will be. Same lady as last time.
She's still in Florida?
I don't know where she's at, but she'll be joining us.
Okay.
That's always the anything.
Yeah, when we do this, when I'm teaching my subject matter, which is mental health, I have no problem with that, but I would never want to teach everything. Just at least for 15 years. I said, okay, so good morning. Guess what? My son called and said, all the colds. He said, I know you probably started baking and stuff. Just send it to your sister. You're not allowed to come because we do not want you to get sick. So now I have to take care of the dog instead. That's so much easier.
Oh, Virgil, my name is Nine.
Good
morning. What is your name?
I'm going to teach her. Call me on my way here.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that everything? Okay. I know you have some special things for pre-license and you have special things for CEs on it. Pardon? You were on the French thing?
Changes, but not what I really want. I really want.
All right, let me do this right now. I'll pull you back. Read your questions. Is this good? No, we do.
I started this is the beginner. I just picked it up on a plane, changed my life.
I will have to make sure this in the
The energy bus.
Okay, I'll talk to you a little bit. Bye.
Do I let it weigh you down and go my day? Anyway, they teach everything.
There you go. Yeah, they don't get training. Well, it's very sad and it's very scary. Years. Because I always say, because I teach a lot of valuation, I'm always very concerned that whenever you get someone licensed, they can go to a private house. And actually, we're not going to stay on the house.
So it's so very
I'm going to go for real-term marriage staff.
Yeah. So 23, but yeah, this is my broker. deal with things, but, so I like that part of it. We changed the
I like to be in my little corner.
for 1 year. You're taking the same stuff every 2 years. No, and keeping the quizzes interesting. I know we all need to. One of the people I think I told you, you're not gonna have it. When you leave here, you might learn a thing or two, but if you don't have, you don't have.
So ladies, I'm not being the instructor. You are? I'm Dunya Faust. Dunya? Okay, and what do you teach? I actually don't teach anything. I just became a realtor, but I was a intervention license counselor and taught mental health. There you go. So mental health roles, yes. So you know, this lovely lady asked me to be a realtor, so I need to start if you want to do some teaching. I absolutely don't know enough about real estate. Until I know more. So I don't have to teach you what you teach.
Okay, I don't teach anything either, but I'm really favorite. And then, actually, I had training classes in my office, not,
But do you want to teach things?
I consider, yeah. But it's been, yeah, it's been around a long time, so,
Experience is useful.
yeah.
We're on the professional committee, so we wanted to make sure.
So we wanted to.
Mr. Perry, did we have down in Miami, did we, did we have a census?
Oh, I
Susan,
didn't
how
know
are you
you.
doing, lady?
Test.
Good, are you?
Yeah, but I did see my son.
Yeah, but I have my
You know, with
application
all
ready
the
to go in, yeah.
you want,
You know, just.
So how's the life?
and I didn't.
Good. The lunch is good. And then blossoms up.
What is this? We have ran out, you lost so much, and the speed of it. So he's putting it all over Twitter, so I say, so. He just got accepted. Into law school. Well,
So that's good. That's good. Now,
We had 4 inches of snow.
I heard, my sister had 3 yesterday on the island.
Hey, who's that guy?
Yeah, I left, and my husband said, it's snowing, and then I told him, and he said, we had a record 4 inches at the airport. Yeah, that's what's saying. Because March already came in like Hawaiians.
It was that for bro. You can say you saw it, and I hadn't heard it. That's better. Yeah, I'm gonna my small for next year. So I'm gonna monitor. I don't have to take that. I'm monitoring next year. And I monitor one of the subjects, which I can use now as well. So I think it's I just did I just did a couple new classes, unfortunately. Septic radon and because it's only
I'm always in trouble. It's trouble fines. That thing, I can find that.
I think it's time for you to bring out.
I mean,
I love that picture.
probably not much, but I mean, just some not useful, but I love teaching that class. It's
Always go.
it's wonderful.
Thank you.
And had our first complaint since, yeah, the dance. We've got like Wants to know why she's not. Yeah, it's just crazy.
You didn't show up?
I don't know. She looking for who's missing.
No problem.
It's a holiday. Every day. Well, they're in the light. Some holidays are better than others. I'm missing.
I guess would you sign in? Sign in.
No, I've never.
So how could they not know?
Yeah, Harry. So I was just like, you got it.
And I could see if they misspelled, but I mean, we were very clear about where you shot them out.
And everybody, except one person, did not follow it.
Well, that's your client's instructions, and that's a lawful instruction.
But I usually that way.
I can always. Yes.
But it was, I laughed so hard, I just thought, really, and you're gonna have me with that, to call, really, what you did not call me, to call.
Well, yeah, there you go.
They were.
Because we have.
And you really try to say, wow, I'm really going to, I'm gonna take first class, you outside, yes. So I think so. That's very screen. Right, then when she mentioned it, thank you, she wanted to know, that was a separate shoot, why didn't we notify everybody that was a separate shoot?
We walked from
All of
one
it was
spot to.
literally, we walked from one staircase, which was in the center of the ship, right around the corner to the dining room, which was just over. I
This has
mean,
been
the
50
the
feet
next
away.
hall.
Right, there was a hallway and a double door.
It was just like, seriously? But I laughed, I thought it was very funny.
Someone got upset.
Yeah, they were, not in the picture that we sent to the paper.
Would you have?
But they were,
Yeah,
she was in the one, that was the first picture that was taken was on the staircase. In the center, she was in that one. Yeah. But somehow missed the direction to walk around the corner to point B. She never made it from point A to point B, although everyone else did. So
She must have gotten distracted by the game one.
how did, literally, right around the corner. I mean, I could see if it was a different floor outside.
She probably wanted to do
Somewhere.
so that she was.
Yeah. But it's just like,
I'm
okay.
on today.
So
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Hey,
Yeah.
Karen, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Okay, where my mother would be.
Sign in for me.
Oh, okay.
Hand up here.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And,
This one where you call it the whole thing.
this is a little bit in there, so.
It's fragile and yet it's the back is.
So here I am.
I hear you, brother.
That holds a bitch.
I know, but it does beat guilt.
Yeah.
It's different. I keep it covered. That's why. That's
I've got all my.
Yes, yes.
It already, March came in like a line and then it went out like a line, so we didn't even get that whole line and land that much.
I have several moving targets. in my life today, so I will be here as long as I can.
Okay, Angela's the person to discuss that with.
I had already told her that.
Oh, okay, that's fine, then I will understand.
I hope to be here the whole time, but
You never know.
no, I don't.
It's nice to be somewhere.
Well, actually, the problem is I have a major settlement that's been moving around. And today it's supposed to.
Wait till August.
No,
CNBC takes over closings.
Yeah,
And if any costs change, we have to have a 3-day extension.
yeah.
The idiots who wrote that law have no idea how real estate works. None. And they're trying to think, well, it's not problem, you just have to have extension, the seller gives you one. Yeah, right, so what do we do with the person who's got everything they own on it, they take over the basement?
Waiting to go to their new house.
Yes.
And the second cell.
Yes.
So they can move to that second.
Yeah, the news this morning was also all about flood insurance rates going up.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just a happy, cheerful thing.
And they, what is it, instead of 100-year floodplain, 500-year.
That, I think it's,
How can you even estimate 500-year floodplain?
well, the problem
That's
here.
all your fault, Bill. You
I know.
flood zone. It's your fault.
Thanks, Bill. I did it all.
And you sent your memo directly to Obama and told him to change that.
I did, and he did. Well, the problem here in Delaware is a little bit worse than elsewhere because we're sinking.
Oh, that is a problem.
It is. We are sinking. And you know why we're sinking?
Too many newcomers coming.
No, because, no, that's what Sam Wilson would say. Because of the ice age. We're still sinking. The weight of the ice pack.
Wow.
Because we're not on rock, we're just on the. So.
And it's, I didn't know this, but apparently part of the ice age ended, or the stuff they were pushing ended just a couple of miles from sea.
Well, all the Great Lakes are glacial lakes. Pine Creek in my area was part of the glacier. It used to run in the opposite direction. All of that stuff. But I didn't know you were on rock in Delaware. You were on altitude.
I had people that got very upset with me because I was saying that, you know, for instance, that the basement was and they decided to tell me that they went with me and they were driving around, they saw a new development that was advertising basement. All right. But you should check to see what the
Well, you know what?
the water. So they stay.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm spending more time doing that.
Yeah, I have a property that's out of the, very clearly out.
What do you, another issue showed yesterday that said the fire wants to know, do you think it would ever be put in the flood plain? I said, I have absolutely no idea. I don't know the crystal ball. And I would even speculate. And I said to her, from a conservation point of view, this is something.
She's not.
She said, well, I know, but I was wanting to have.
Good morning.
What is
Hey, you bossing around? You are.
All right, how are you? I didn't sound like 5 years ago.
I know.
Yeah, one person.
At least not me, I don't know.
I think Angela wants.
Oh, no,
We're trying to get you another job.
Yeah, I'm not an instructor, that's okay. How are you this morning? Okay.
Did I miss all the treats?
I know, but
Hey,
I'm
no,
sure.
we can last all the-
I'm sure. Normally there's some treats or something, you know? I mean, really?
I'm like, okay, I'll.
Where's that evaluation sheet?
April Fools.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, we're not taking it.
Sorry about
Well, we know we have lunch.
But I'm used to having a little, you know, diet cheese stuff going on. How are you? Oh.
I was gonna say, how did you get coffee already, but then I realized you're drinking coffee.
Well, it's just hot water.
Okay, good. Because my Angela just said, he's the
Well, I'm not allowed to do any caffeine or decaf or anything.
That was
Because
good.
I'm not able to. And if I follow that regimen, then I don't even know the answer to it. Except my doctor says, like, you can't do marathons. I was like,
Take that off.
I was on my list. I was going to start.
Don't you remember the line in Beaches where the one character found out she had problems with her heart and she said to her friend, to the Bette Midler character, well, I'll never have to go to another aerobics class as long as I live.
Video, he wants to do that. I do that. I give it a chance. Read that. You don't get
Good for you. Good morning. I like people who sit up front.
Well, from someone who's doing this for a number of years, I understand.
Spread it out further.
I'm gonna be really confused with new type stuff because I know where to look to see if the commission's right.
Well, what's really sad, what's very scary to me about Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is there's no accountability. You have this person with a tremendous amount of power, and no amount of accountability, and I'm thinking, what is wrong with this picture? Why would anyone in government think that's a good idea, that someone has power but not accountability? Yeah, I know, let them all out.
That great little walking cars.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, a little bit at a time.
I really think I got to get a mid-year at Well, they used to have 3. I can't get that. I haven't tried out.
I've got to do my ADR.
Me too.
I'll be there, and then
I'm trying to read it.
But my daughter's the seller there. Easy is an expensive thing.
Right, yeah, most places. The quality is, it's a healthy.
Yeah. Lawrence Association pays for her women, we're gonna help you with that.
Ah, there you go.
But partly these are so that one because one year I thought I was
For somebody.
well, they have a bus that goes down. But I was there before the started. You get there from the. Yeah, that's right. I was there.
It's just that she's one of the trains.
And the other thing, the year I was.
I was trying to say that.
Well, I love down the APR race.
There are things I think too, like as I left the house today, this is the first decent day. I should be making now, you know, things like that.
It's such a long list. I mean, some of the farmers on the next say, oh, there's snow on my raised bed. You shovel the snow.
So I should probably like to start.
I don't do much down there. Which we will take down.
Well, I'm trying to get lost. You know, yeah. I had part of the warehouse.
I believe there's coffee being made for those of you who are seeking caffeine.
I'm not like her.
Let's see what happens. This is my last Easter. Happens, not just build. You gotta be.
I just wanted to make sure you're under that.
It's not paranoia. You know?
Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know that.
I felt like
Yes.
that.
See if he agrees with that. He doesn't have to, because you know.
I'm doing another pot.
Get rid of Swan.
Well, it's looking like.
I was waiting for homemade cookies.
Yeah,
Just saying.
It's April Fool's Day. You guys know how this is. You're not getting evaluated. Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. All of our sports-themed instructors. Some of you I know, some of you have expressed an interest here to teach here at sports. So I look forward to working with you. If I haven't worked with you, I look forward to working with you. Most of you have met Melanie before. I think a lot of you that I see here has attended professional standards training with Melanie just in January. She was here. So we invited her back to infuse some creativity into our instruction as per the Delaware Real Estate Commission is suggesting to providers to encourage their instructors to think outside the box, to deliver your materials a little bit differently to the students, shake it up a little bit. So with all that said and done, Melanie, I'm going to let you roll. These guys want to get out of here. And
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Now, we've got a room full of instructors and some professional development committee members, but with instructors, there should be no problem with what I'm going to do next, because you all like to talk. So I'm going to ask, starting with this gentleman, everyone to stand up so you can see, they can all see your face. Tell them who you are and what you teach and how long you've been teaching. And if you're not a teacher yet, just tell us the rest of the stuff about you. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Vincent White. I'm an instructor. I've been doing this for, 15 plus years at least. I teach everything except math and law, only because I'm not good in one of those. You be the choice. And of course, I've designed my own courses.
Okay, good. We're going to be talking a little bit today about writing learning objectives and getting those outlines approved for CE, which is always a big deal. I'm going to go straight down this row.
My name is Bill Lux. I have been teaching, I can't remember, I've been somewhere between 10 and 15 years. And
Just one rock.
Yeah, those tablets. Yeah, okay. I'm so glad we got PowerPoint. I teach everything except the broker indoctrination and the new agent, new sales agent classes, and concentrate primarily in the law and commercial.
Saw your red pins. I figured you did commercial.
Do office management and ethics. And that's always my favorite one, and everything. I just do, actually, to tell you the truth, I do whatever Angela tells me.
That's probably a plan.
I mean, I think I could just say that and that answers the question.
There you go.
Hello, I'm Walt Sorella, and I teach in Maryland as well as Delaware, and I teach pre-licensing as well as CE approved courses. I just wrote a safety course that's been approved by Maryland and Delaware for 3 hours of CE, and I teach intro to commercial.
Yay. I'm coming to your state convention this fall.
In Ocean City?
Yes.
See you then.
Yeah.
My name is Terry Burke, and I work for Coldwell Banker Reserve Realty. And my whole emphasis is math and commercial. So I think I've done one class here that was investing in commercial real estate, lease information. I've taught for Coldwell Banker for real estate math for licensing. I also teach in Maryland for the Maryland Association of Appraisers. And we do, what do we do there? We do all commercial investing. I mean, whether it's shopping center, industrial, office leasing.
Are you a NISPAC instructor since you teach appraisers?
I'm not. I pretty much concentrate on the math portion of it. And what else can I do? I have a class in for approval now, Introduction to Statistics and Linear Regression.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
That'll keep them on it, right?
I just want to tell my daddy.
I'm kidding.
I'm not an instructor. My name is Jane Hicks, and I'm a member of the Professional Development Committee, and that's why I'm here this morning.
Okay, we're so glad to have you here. Thank you.
I'm Bruce Plummer. I'm an instructor. I teach all 7 of the CE modules. Also approved to teach a licensing course and teach what?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, plus the 4 modules for the new agents, and I also taught GRI.
Yay. Okay. You're next.
Hi, I'm Ginger Tristan. I work at Coldwell Banker and Bethany. I'm not an instructor at this time, but I'm hoping to engage in teaching some pre-licensing classes and maybe helping jazz up some other classes.
Okay, great. Do you do training for your company?
I did. When I worked with Long Foster, I taught pre-licensing several years ago. So I have some experience.
There you go.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Joe McCormick. My company is CK Capital. We facilitate short sales. We train in Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. Have not taught here yet at the Sussex level, but do a lot of the Newcastle County board level and Carl.
Oh, okay, great.
Laser focus, foreclosures, short sales, and distressed properties over the beach in Delaware, Module 6 and Module 7.
Okay, very good.
Ooh.
I'm Sue Bramhall. I was an instructor, but I was limited in what I instructed at the time for SCORE, and that was the Introduction to International Real Estate, because I was a member of CIPS, and I was a CIPS national instructor. So I was limited at that point. But now I don't do anything, but I am the chair of professional development, and that's why I'm here today. I'm glad.
Lovely to see you again.
Thanks, Maureen. My name is Harry Wooding. I teach in Pennsylvania and in Delaware. I teach all 7 modules, the 4 new agents modules, and ABR. And what I don't know, I just make up as I go along.
Yeah. Now, Susan came back in. I'm going to have her interview. You're telling people who you are and what you teach, and if you don't teach, what you would like to teach.
Hello, I'm Susan Gioli. I'm with Man & Sons. In my first life, I had a doctorate in education. My goal was to become a certified instructor so I could teach here, facilitate. I love to work with new agents. That's what I want my focus to be.
Okay, I'm going to go over here to these 2 ladies.
I'm Marie Cahill, and I'm a member of the Professional Development Committee, and that's why I am here today.
Okay.
Ditto, and my name is Dunya Patch.
Hi, I'm John Tarburton. I'm an attorney. I practice law in Seeker. I have taught the law portion of the broker's course a few times. The first time for SCORE was in 2008. I have taught the pre-license portion of the Maryland course in Maryland before that, but there was a long gap between doing that and doing this for SCORE. My style is so boring, so frustratingly boring. There are 2 former students who can attest to that. So I'm hoping to jazz up my approach, so because I was on the education committee and I've seen the reviews. You know, the students fill out their reviews and they get sent in, and then they would talk about these instructors, and I would think, oh my God, that's me.
You have the first ingredient, which is a good sense of humor. There you go.
I'm Trinity Lander, former student in that broker's class. I actually just got recertified to teach at Homewood University. I've only had the privilege of teaching it once here at SCORE, and I do remember some of those views on those reports, so trying to bounce back from that. Also on the education committee and former president at SCORE.
Busy person, okay.
Rose likes to go last, and he always likes to have his back to the wall. So
Aces and eights, right?
Is that it? Okay. Susan Mills. I'm a broker with Jack Lingo Realtor. I've served on the education committee at the state level 2 times. Been on the education committee here years ago. I'm certified to teach pre-licensing math,
all the modules except law. But I'm limited in my experience. I've taught NAR ethics and some rental classes for Jack Lingo Realtor. So I want to broaden my horizons.
I'm Virgil Bullis. I've been teaching for 24 years. I am on the way out, and I'm really studying just teaching the math part portion now. I've taught a little bit of everything.
Okay, very good. Well, welcome to everyone. And I want this to work for you. So if at any point you have a question, I'm pretty good at not being derailed. What we're going to do today, we're going to share some experiences. Someone mentioned evals. That was John who mentioned evaluations. One of the things that I have learned is that actually if the facility sucks, that will affect your evals. If they are cold or they are hot, it distracts them and it makes the entire experience negative. So think about that with the facility. You have a great facility here. You have a facility you can control, which is huge. We're going to learn some ideas, explore some new things. We will talk about learning objectives. Now, the name of the game in real estate education is pretty much CE. It's only the really awesome agents that don't ask, do I get CE credit for this class? They actually just want to come to hear what you have to say. So we're going to talk about how you can write learning objectives. And believe me, there is a way to do it. I have a new person in Pennsylvania who's a lot more strict than the last person was, but it's amazing what you can do with a few well-chosen adjectives. Methods for teaching 4 types of adult learners. We're going to talk about that. So the self-assessment is the first thing here, and I want you to take just a couple minutes and answer this. I am not going to look at it. I'm not going to ask you to share it with anyone. I'm just going to ask you to 1 to 5. 1 is, yep, I'm there all the time. 5 is, and there's 15 total questions. Does everyone have a handout? Did you do it already? Of course you did. You're an instructor, so as soon as you got your hands on it, you did it. How did I know that?
You've been around.
Yes. Do you have a handout?
No.
Would you like the handout?
Oh, no, I said, I just said.
Oh, okay.
President, would you have a handout?
Which is why I don't get up with that.
Right, okay, get it at the end. And if you don't teach, I would love it if you would look at these from the perspective of a student. In other words, the classes you have taken, which of these would apply? Okay, I'm going to move quickly. Now, let's just go through these, and I think we can guess the direction I want you to be thinking. Preparation and being in command of the material. Can we agree? We got to be there. Now, let's be honest. Pre-licensing, pretty easy. It's hard to not know more than they do. Although often you will get someone from another state, and they want to talk about their state, and you need to shut them down nicely. But the last thing a person in a pre-license class in Delaware needs to hear is what the law is in Colorado. Because all it's going to do is confuse them. And remember, those folks are in your class because they want to take a state exam and sell real estate. So it's really important for that. So being prepared, I will share a story. I've been fortunate to present a triple play since we've had triple plays in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. First time my husband went with me, Atlantic City was still in their heyday because we were not doing gambling in Pennsylvania and Delaware and Maryland and everywhere else. And so he thought, woohoo, we're going to Atlantic City, we will see shows, we will gamble. We get into the Sheraton, which connects to the convention center. I get my computer out. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm reviewing for tomorrow's class. What are you doing? I said, you want to go to a casino? Fine. I have to go through things one more time. Anyone with me? I'm going through things, yeah. Paying attention to your students to see what their faces are telling you. Now, I have ventured into the world of online education, and I will share some of that with you if time allows. One of the biggest challenges with online education, though, is you have no idea. You have no idea if you've lost them. Now, those of you who teach, let's talk about the faces we see. There's the, which I bet you get a lot, Virgil, because you teach math. Then there's what I call, and this is Vegas, so I'm going to use a word here that I would not use in a real classroom, but I'll use it with other instructors. You know what I call the oh shit face. And that's when you're teaching law or ethics, and you say, in Delaware, you may not do X, Y, and Z, and they give you this look like, oh crap, I've been doing that. Yeah, and it's against the law. Okay. Make an effort to use the names. Now, you just saw me do my cheat sheet. I always do a cheat sheet. People think I remember their names. No, this is my view from standing up here with your names written down, so I can hopefully call on everyone today. Now, the really nice thing with adults, bless their hearts, if it's a 2-day class, they'll sit in the same spot. And if someone moves, the person who was in that seat gets offended. It's like pews in church. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? They're like, she's in my seat, and you're like, I don't see your name on the seat, but they do get upset. Visuals such as PowerPoint. Now, we can have death by PowerPoint, but we can also have some really powerful stuff in PowerPoint. And we'll talk about that. Clear learning objectives. Wait, adults really want to know, why am I here? Other than I have to be here because the state is requiring me to do this, or I have to be here to get a license, or I have to be here because it's quadrennial code of ethics. They want a clear objective. 4 types of adult leaders. If you don't know that right now, don't worry, we will get to that, but they're very distinct. Variety in your style. So you have to be flexible, because some people love what you're doing and others are like, seriously, that person, please shut up. Stories. Who are your good storytellers? Stories are awesome. Stories on yourself are the best kind. I loved it when John did that. Okay, and I tell stories on myself. Games. I am going to demo a game for you. There is game software out there. You can buy. Wonderful for code of ethics, wonderful for use path, wonderful for anything boring. A lot of times with my appraisal students, I will divide them into teams. They get very competitive. Now, I brought up appraisal students, and I'm going to loop back to number 1, prepared and in command of the material. Sometimes we teach and sometimes we facilitate. What would I mean by that? Walt.
We just read. Some of the courses that we teach in Maryland are written by the Real Estate Commission, and we have to literally read the outline and talk about it. But it's hard sometimes.
Well, okay, that's not precisely what I meant. You teach appraisers. What would I mean by facilitate?
I know my interpretation of what you're saying is that either going through examples on the PowerPoint, and then what I would do is normally give them a problem after the information that I show them how to do it, and then ask them to do it, and then put it back on.
We're on a different wavelength. I think Susan's on mine, so I'm going to get her to jump in.
When I facilitate in Rotary training, my role is that of stimulating conversation among the participants, and they learn from each other.
Yes, yes. Did y'all hear what she said? She is stimulating conversation among the participants. They learn from each other. Now, I picked on appraisers for a reason. I teach appraisers, you teach appraisers. They are, without a doubt,
the most educated group of people we get in a real estate classroom. How many of you would agree with that? Effective, this year they have to have a 4-year degree, plus specialized hours in appraisal, plus experience so they know what they're doing. Now, I started teaching appraisers when I was much younger than I am today, and I would have MAI appraisers in the room, and those were people who have this incredible designation. And I knew going in, there was no way I knew what they knew. There was no way I had the experience they had. But I could certainly find a way to get them to share their experiences with other people. And so, example, I have a class I'm doing for appraisers right now where we're talking about appraising in the internet age, and we're talking about everything from Zillow to collateral underwriting, which is just Fannie Mae's version of an automated valuation model. But I am drawing them out to tell me what they know. And that's going to be the difference, because their experiences are actually worthwhile sharing. And a lot of my appraiser students say, I come to a live class because I like the interaction. I can sit in front of the computer, but I don't get the interaction. Your people in pre-licensing, though, you can't facilitate as much, Susan, would you agree? Because they don't know anything yet. Okay. Number 10. Most of my classroom method is lecture. I often read from the book. Please try not to read from the book except for very short bites if you can. I'm on the property valuation committee at MAR, and every year we get a report from the Appraisal Foundation about how the USPAP instructors are doing. And USPAP is Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. And everyone who wants to become an appraiser in the U.S. has to take a 15-hour course in USPAP to become an appraiser, and then they have to take 7 hours every 2 years to keep their license, or as I like to call it, lifetime employment for me. Okay, so here's the thing. To become a USPAP instructor, you have to take this course from the foundation and pass their test, which is an interesting exam because they give you more than one correct answer, but they want the most correct answer. I roll. But the people who are able to do that know an awful lot about USPAP. They're not necessarily good teachers. And so they will tell us at our meeting that they get the complaint that somebody reads USPAP. Well, folks, if you are an insomniac, get your hands on a copy of USPAP, put it on your bedside table. It'll knock you out every night. I'll tell you what, somebody reading it to you, out like a light. So be very judicious with what you do. Read. Case studies. Now, some of your learners love these, some of them hate them. But we've got a lot of chatty people in our classrooms. We've got chatty people because for the most part, real estate agents like to talk, don't they? And they like to interact. And of course, I don't know what you say to people in pre-licensing. I don't get to teach pre-licensing anymore. But I used to the first night say, why do you want to get into real estate? And they would only say, because I love houses and I love people. And I got to the point where I said, and we will cure you of that. Yes, but they still like to interact. So case studies gives them a chance to chit chat.
In case studies, what I do on a case study is I have the people that are next to each other, or maybe a form of 2 or a team of 3, to work together.
Right.
Because it's almost impossible to do the case study in a half hour.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
what happens is I have people do different sections of the case study, do the rent roll, do the expenses, merge them together. But in that process, they're learning.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing you sometimes have to do with the case study. Now, I know that Harry also teaches ABR SUI. So here's a problem you can get in an ABR class. You can get a lot of competitors in the same room. And they'll have clicks. All of the Coldwell Banker people will be over here, and all the Keller Williams people will be over here, and all the Remax people will be back there. How many of you know exactly what I'm talking about? And then they get into the, we're not going to share our secrets. That's when you have to do, okay, you're counting off by 3s, and then it's all the 1s, all the 2s, all the 3s, because otherwise, you don't mix them up, they're going to stay in their little comfort zone, in their little clique. Now, I took your temperature. I asked you guys to introduce yourselves. I was listening to what you said. I was making notes. I was in a 2-day land class in Florida many years ago, and the instructor never got around to taking the temperature until day 2. And a fellow instructor said, you always need to know who you're going to be teaching and who's teaching you. Susan has a PhD in education. I'm going to be looking at her face when I talk about this theory to see if I'm screwing it up. But here's the deal, folks. Especially in a class of adults, you are likely to have people who know more than you do about certain things. And real estate is one of those careers we get people who were in another career. And that's when you find out, oh, they used to be an accountant, they used to be a banker, they used to be a CPA, they used to be an attorney, or whatever. So, and attorneys can do very well in education. I'll have to introduce you to my friend Krista. Okay, role playing. How many of you do role playing? I think role playing is awesome for a lot of things, and one of the things that I still use it for is an agency situation to illustrate how someone needs to behave. Reading assignments. Sometimes, rather than you read from the book, you're going to have them read. In pre-licensing, how many of you still do reading assignments outside of class? Yeah, and people need to get back into that habit. Evaluate the exams you give to determine if questions are poorly worded, if you did not explain the material thoroughly, or if they were too easy. How many of you do this?
Oh, yeah, because
yeah.
Not only that, I mean, you got all sorts of problems doing that, because sometimes there's more than one answer. You can read the question, and in your mind, A is the answer.
Yes.
You drafted the whole thing. But C is possible.
Yeah.
So you have, sometimes I go through, and if people complain, pull it out, put another one in.
Harry
Keep fine-tuning.
Harry and I will be at that ABR re-instruct training in DC at Vidger. We always go through the test, and the instructors will read back, there's a problem with this question. It's ambiguous. It's poorly worded. Now, the other thing with test questions, you probably run into this, I don't know what the Maryland rule is. Some states don't allow negative balances. What the heck are they? All of the following except is a negative balance. And so you have to really pay attention to what the requirement is for the state when you're writing an exam, and it can be nerve-wracking. Item writing is, I think, more difficult than people give credit for. Has anyone written tests for your state exam? Isn't that fun? Yeah, because you have to explain why the correct answer is the correct answer. Now, if you're doing math, it's math, but if you're doing law, you have to cite the area of license law. And then you have to cite why those other answers are not right. Because your state commission can get challenged by someone who took the exam, and they can say, that was an incorrect answer, and you graded me wrong, or whatever. So anyhow, this is what we were kind of getting at with this. So let's talk about, anyone been to an instructor development seminar before? Susan has, you have. Where did you guys go?
I was a PA, I taught it.
So you taught it, so you want to come up?
Not right now.
Okay.
It's in Washington.
Washington?
My first instruction experience, I was taught by the state at the state bar school as a bar school instructor.
Okay. Susan?
It's all Rotary related.
All Rotary, okay. All righty. So anyhow, these were things we talked about. Knowing your stuff, and by the way, stuff changes. Now, Virgil has got a great niche. His math doesn't change. 2 + 2 is still 4. It was 4 when he started, it's going to be 4 after he's done. Sure. But if you're teaching RESPA, for example, do we have some interesting changes on the horizon with RESPA? Yeah, it's called Pull Your Hair Out, come August. And these were all the things we wanted to do. So checking your updates, and I don't know what you use for a source of material. I know Susan's on Facebook, because Susan and I are Facebook friends. If you are a Facebook friend of mine, let me know. There is a real estate instructors group on Facebook. It's a closed group. If you are on Facebook and we're not friends, please send me a friend request and I will add you to that group. It is a great forum and people share ideas. And so it's just kind of a nice thing to do. Social media is doing so much cool stuff for us. But as far as checking your updates, those of you who teach in Pennsylvania, I would hope you are signed up to get PAR Just Listed, which is the daily blog from my state association. And it has all kinds of stuff in it. Yesterday was fair housing, but 2 days ago it was changes to the agreement of sale. Now, if you're going to teach in Pennsylvania, which is a very strong standard form state, you better be up to date on the changes in the form. You don't want the student saying to you, so Vincent, did this change in the new form? And Vincent's like, there's a new form. You don't want that to happen. Honor their time. Start on time, end on time, give them breaks when you say you're going to. I have a real problem with not starting on time unless there's a really compelling reason, like an ice storm. Sharing another story, you know, New Jersey held out forever not having CE, bless their hearts. So they finally got CE. They were drugged, kicking and screaming into the 21st century. I was engaged to do some CE in New Jersey, right outside New York City, right across the river from New York City through the board there. I think it was the Bergen County board, does not matter. But I'm there, we're going to go 9 to noon, because they do 3-hour segments. And the person who's not there anymore just comes up to me and says, this is June, so there's no bad weather. Well, I think we're going to start at 9:30 because traffic's bad and a lot of people aren't here. I said, fine, but we have to go to 12:30. She said, oh, but we're having a luncheon. I said, this is CE. You are required to give them 3 hours of instruction. Well, that'll mess up lunch. If we start now, some of them won't get credit. I said, and it's traffic, right? She said, yes. I said, is this the first day you've had bad traffic in northern New Jersey? I mean, I did have my sarcasm fall on, but here's my point.
Who was governor?
If I live in northern New Jersey, I should know I've got traffic, right? And if my class starts at 9, I need to get my butt in my car in time to get there at 9. Because you know what? 3/4 of the people have managed to do that. They had managed to be there on time. She actually thought I was going to say, okay, that's fine, we'll just go 9:30 to noon. I said, we can't do that. And she looked at me like, well, you're a problem causer. And I'm like, you want me to sign transcripts that they were here for 3 hours? That's not going to happen unless they were here for 3 hours. Be heard. Do I have any singers? No one sings, you sing. If you are a singer, you learn to use your diaphragm, and that helps you project your voice very well without a microphone. So I would say sing. Actually, singing is very good for you for lots of reasons. If you are in a large space, obviously you need a microphone. Something I learned the hard way. If you get laryngitis, do not try to speak. It'll make it so much worse that it'll last way longer. You need to just shut up. You need to cancel your classes and drive home from South Carolina. And then you need to go back in a month when your voice is better. That's not a fun story. Obviously, bass people. And one of the things, this room, it's wall ceiling mounted, but I took a class from an instructor who had projector sitting here, and she was constantly doing this and walking in front of it. It drove me out of my mind. If you're going to use a flip chart, that needs to be in a space that everyone can see. Now, you can't use a flip chart in a room with 600 people. No one's going to be able to see it in the back. So you may have to adapt. And one of the things that, if you end up doing convention teaching, you will have to modify just about everything you have, because you can't do case studies. You can't, you will have too large a group. It'll be very unwieldy. And at Triple Play, they now tell us to go the solid 3 hours with no breaks. So the students are allowed to break. So basically it means we're really limited on fluids as instructors until the class is over. It's just so much fun. Okay, move. I move a lot. Some days I wish I had a pedometer on to see how much I move. But your body is part of what you do and how many can move around the room. Now, let's just suppose, and I'm going to, oh, good Lord, there's a bug. Is it a stink bug?
It is. It's spring. Don't kill it.
What should I do?
It's Sussex County.
It's spring. Let you live. Sing to it, Harry. Sing to it. I'm gonna hear it. Right? Oh, my God. Yeah.
Now let Terry go. Now, one of the things I can do with moving, thank you, Terry. And Bruce is not a problem. He's great. But let me tell you, if Bruce was sitting back here reading his newspaper, I would just come and stand next to Bruce and chat. I keep moving, because if I do that, I'm bringing all of your attention to him. He's gonna put the paper down, because he's gonna be a little bit embarrassed. He should be.
I once had a couple of class that I walked over to them and I said, I tell you what, why don't you get a hotel room after the class? Like, until then.
I love it. I love it. Okay. I try to skip most of the blah blah. Thank you very much again. As an introduction, I have heard introductions that have gone on 20 minutes and told you that they sold more Girl Scout cookies than anybody else in there. Seriously, I try to skip that. I think it's very important that you have contact information that is separate from your real estate company, because you don't want someone to feel like you@yourcompany.com, that you're funneling people to your company, you're trying to recruit them or anything like that. I managed to leave my house without them. I have separate business cards just for teaching, and they just have my instructor information on them. If you have a company email, you@realestatecompany.com, I would suggest you get an email you use for teaching. I would suggest you have a domain name. I'm Melanie at the Melanie Group, and I didn't use my whole name, McLean, because McLean gets misspelled as often as Melanie, so I wanted them to have one good shot. How many of you have a website for teaching? I'll tell you what, you get business off those. How many of you have a Facebook fan page? I have a Facebook page for education. The sole purpose of that is to get people to come to classes. All I post there is about real estate. I don't invite my friends who are not in real estate to like that page. I invite my friends who are not in real estate who live locally to like my Jackson real estate page, which is a completely different page. You might want to think about a Facebook fan page. I'll try to get live on the internet and show you one. Now, beginning of the class, and I didn't do this, so I'm bad, but I figured you knew your facility. Burning question everyone always has is, where's the restroom? If I need to get to that room, where is it? I think I was teaching here before they remodeled the building the day they had a septic problem, many years ago. That's not a fun day as an instructor. When the message comes, please don't flush the toilets, we're having a septic problem. Okay, electronic devices. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you think you and I are going to keep them from using these, you're crazy. And furthermore, there's times I invite them to. So when I teach certain ethics classes, I tell them it has to be on silent, but you can text me. And the reason I do that is we have a room full of competitors, and Harry is sitting there saying, I'd really like to ask a question about what John did to me the other day, because I think it was really, really unethical. But if I raise my hand and ask the question, John will know it, and it'll just be a mess. If you allow him to text that to you, you just read the question. I have a question here regarding what do you do when you're pretty certain your offer was never presented? And then I can answer the question. John can squirm silently thinking, I wonder if Harry texted that to her, but he won't know. And if you have not tried that, try it. Smoking, I don't know of a facility that I've gone to that allows any smoking in the building. Smokers have to go outside. Breaks and end time. Now, anybody besides me make deals with people?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no breaks, late 10 minutes early,
Whatever. I have a couple of really nice associations that do lunch on site. They bring it in, like Angela's doing today. I always say to students, if we're doing lunch on site, we'll only take a half an hour, not an hour, and I will give you that time back at the end of the day. And they love it, because they're pretty efficient. Half an hour, the average realtor can check their messages, eat their lunch, whatever. And who are they? Who are you going to be teaching, and who will be teaching you? Nobody said they taught technology. I have a little kid up there because of technology. So if you're in a technology, if you're teaching a technology class or anything to do with tech in your class, the younger they are, the more likely they know more than you. That has just been my observation. And I actually say to people, if you can't work this device, find a 14-year-old who will show you. And they'll pick it up and go, oh, it's like this, Dad, or Grandpa, or whoever. They're just intuitive into it. But you do want to know who is out there and what they're doing. And the seating chart I showed you. So, do we need to switch gears? So back to my folks that teach math. And that is Virgil and Walt and Terry. How many times have you guys been in the classroom and you're getting that deer in the headlights look? And understand, number one, people are math phobic. I don't know why, because the math we do in real estate does not go beyond algebra. We use a financial calculator, and they can all get the app for their smartphone to do mortgages and define your balance and all that stuff. And yet, how many of you still seen when you say the word math, they just panic? It's like you're pointing a gun at them. It's very frustrating, and I don't teach math exclusively, as you gentlemen do. It's frustrating to me because it's such an important tool for a realtor to possess. But I'm just going to say, you're going to need to look at that room, and you're going to have to make a judgment call. So I've introduced math, let us say, and 3 of you are like, yeah, let's go. And the rest of you are still trying to figure out how to turn on the calculator or bring the app up. I'm going to have to tone that down. The other place I get this is when I get a course approved for both agents and appraisers, which people like me to do, because a lot of people have both licenses and they want to double dip on their CE. Well, that's great, except I'm going to tell you what. The appraisers are a couple miles ahead of the agents in terms of statistics, math, understanding valuations. A lot of times I have to really notch that down. And so I always take that temperature. How many of these do I have in the room? How many of those do I have in the room? Because otherwise it will be a problem. So we want to always.
I usually put someone who has, I teach a financial calculator, HP12C. And what happens is one person has no idea what button to push. They just did the app, 10 minutes prior or bought the calculator. And there's usually someone in there that like generally 1 year out of college kind of, and know everything about this calculator. And I put those two together.
Well, that's great if you do that.
That person's over there showing them as we go along. And so I'm doing it up there and he's doing it down here. Yeah.
What I'm finding more today is people are preferring to download an app for their smartphone. And now I'm getting the question, which app should I download? And I don't have their smartphone. And so I'm like, I don't know, because I don't have that smartphone. And it's really not that hard for them to find. They need to go to their app store and they look at financial calculator. And they've gotten a whole lot more user-friendly. But when you teach appraisers, they all show up with their Hewlett Packards.
Right.
And they know how to run them.
Right.
So when I have appraisers and agents in a room and we do a case study, we put at least one appraiser in every group. We got to have a numbers person in there to work it out. Now, an icebreaker, and you're going to want to do these for a lot of different reasons. But I like to make them cooperate and take their temperature. Now, I gave you one here. It's a sample. You can do whatever you want. But here's a bingo sample. And what you do with this is you say to everyone, okay, you can go horizontally, vertically, diagonally. Start talking to the people in the room. And so, for example, you're talking to me, and I say, oh, I have a dog. I would initial right there on has a dog. And then later on she'd say, Melanie has a dog. Now, you're either going to go across horizontally, down vertically, or diagonal. If you go down, has been in the real estate business more than 10 years, you're going to be able to move right over to him. Okay, you get his initials. Then you're looking for someone who sold a property for more than $1 million. Then somebody with a franchise, and then somebody who likes Italian food. What you have with these is you have some stuff that's fairly simple, like every group of adults that I know of We'll probably have somebody who has a dog, or likes Italian food, or plays golf, or has grandchildren. It will be maybe more difficult to get the person who sold $1 million property, okay? Has attended a national realtor convention, that's about 5% of realtors. But anyhow, it's a way to get them to meet. What do you use as icebreakers? Anyone have another icebreaker they like? Okay, sometimes I do this. I say, I need you to find someone in the room you do not know at all. And I want you to go interview them, but here's the deal. You're not going to talk about real estate. Talk about everything but real estate, and then you're going to introduce me, your person, to the group. So then instead of saying, this is my friend who works at Keller Williams, it might be, this is my new friend who likes skeet shooting and served in the military and has a garden. All things not real estate related, just kind of a way to do it. Anyone think of an icebreaker you've done that worked for you? Susan, you probably do these with Rotary, do you not?
Yeah, but I use things like, tell me about who's in a small club, who's in a medium size, who's in a big club, and then get the smalls and bigs to talk to one another that way, because they're so different. I think big clubs like over 100 people in the club.
Yeah. Trina, what have you done with the bumper diversity? Because that's a really interesting and fun course, and it's too bad everyone thinks it's just fair housing because it's not. What do you do for icebreaker?
Well, it was really challenging, but what I had done was it had these different colored dots.
Yes.
So I had different dots on each table and tried to get them to pair or find someone else that had that particular dot. So there were a lot of eyeball rolling in the class. So, and then also doing the charts where you put up different little themes and get them to interact.
Yeah.
Respond to
It's a very interesting class to teach. Excuse me, go ahead.
Reverse side out, why do you recommend doing icebreakers?
I want to loosen them up, and if they're going to be together for 2 days in particular, or a whole day, I'd really like them to have a little bit of interaction. If time allows, I may not have time to do it, but I definitely like, my goal here would be you would all know each other at the end of the day and feel comfortable relying on each other as resources. So that's kind of where I
I
am.
usually tell a story. I tell a story, a real estate story that may have happened to me, and bring them into play. And that sort of loosens everybody up, because everybody can say, oh yeah, that happened to me. Or, you know, that hasn't happened to me yet. But
yeah, go ahead.
What I do all the time is say, I've been doing this for 40 plus years, almost 50 years. And I had the rare opportunity of working in Manhattan. Oh, let me rephrase that. What happened was I was doing leasing of office space in Delaware, in Newark. And I met an agent named Ellen. And I said, you know, when I was 20 some odd years old, I worked in Midtown Manhattan for this real estate office, Douglas L. Elliman Company. And he said, yeah, that was my great-grandfather. So I had the unique opportunity of working for the great-grandfather, born in like 1860 or thereabouts, and his son, Wills, who's in northern Delaware. So
Okay.
I feel that.
That's pretty interesting. I had a lot of fun with a group of appraisers once by saying to them, finish this sentence. The weirdest thing I ever saw in the house was.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
And my favorite from that class was the clean out for the septic was under the coffee table. Oh, yeah. They had put an addition on the house. Yeah, that's really what you want in your living room is to clean out the septic tank. What a conversation piece. But anything to get them talking. Yeah, how about it? And again, it's more temperature taking. Now, has anyone ever been to divinity school? Which is not where you learn to be divine, it's where you learn to become a parson or a preacher or a minister or a priest. Okay. I have been told by people who are in that line of work that they get told this when they are taught about sermons and homilies. Tell them what you are going to tell them. I'm going to tell you why God loves you. Tell them God loves you. Tell them what you told them. God loves you. I realize I simplified that, but how many of you sat through a not very interesting religious service? Okay. How many of you have sat through an awesome religious service and it's like, wow. So again, it's just speaking, it's their expertise is different than ours. Now, make sure they know where you are. Now, reback, anyone besides this gentleman teach reback courses? ABR, anyone teach CRB? If you guys are interested in those, you have to take them before you can teach them. And you do have to re-up your certification, but you're already teaching one national course with At Home with Diversity, so you might want to check that out. At any rate, one of the cool things with their materials is they always have the page numbers on the slide. So you can say, and this is really important if you've got a long course like ABR, which is a 2-day course, so you're going to be able to say to the student, hey, if you zone out, because I said picnic and you went and took a mental picnic, when you come back in, you're thinking, where is she? It's going to be on the slide. Now, make certain they know where you are. Join me on whatever page. When I print out my own outlines, and I screwed up this time, I try to have a page number on them, and I don't have them on these. My bad. But you want to make sure they know where you are. Now, other things we can do. A parking lot. Let me describe it, and I bet a lot of you have done it. So I'm going to take a flip chart of a class this size, and I am going to go around the room and I'm going to say, what did you come here to learn today? Why are you here today? Now, why are you here today is going to get answers like, I have to be here because I need my CE. And then I can say, well, you know what? If you're still here at the end of the day, you've accomplished your goal because you'll have your CE. But you try to get them, and then at the end of the day, you go back to that parking lot and tell them that you hit everything, if you did. Now, sometimes people don't read our descriptions, do they? No, they don't read our descriptions. And so what happens is they say, oh, I thought we were going to do X, Y, and Z. No, that's not what this class is about. I'll try to answer some questions you have about it, but here's the problem, folks. And I hate to sound like a stickler, but I am a stickler. You write an outline for your real estate commission. It's a timed outline. You tell them what you're going to cover, or you're working off their outline, which many of you do. You have said, this is what you're going to cover. If you go off that script, you're not doing what you said you were going to do. Now, who besides me has been in a class where someone never got to the topic? Lots of personal stories, lots of anecdotes, lots of big yucks. That's not what they came for, and that's, to me, that's fundamentally dishonest. If I tell you we're going to spend 3 hours doing X, Y, and Z, then I should meet your expectations. How many of you are with me on that? And I should not be telling you, oh yeah, I was going to get around to that. My husband took, when he was getting his broker's license, a course which required a very expensive textbook, and it was a good textbook on investment real estate. They never even opened it. And I don't even want to talk about how poor the job was that he had. His background's banking, so he was fine, but what a mess. Okay, a quiz. I often start Code of Ethics with a quiz. A few years back for USPAP, I did. You can't do that, or can you? It's always amazing what people know, and it's also very amazing what people know that isn't so. So here's an appraisal example. Nowhere in USPAP does it say, I have to physically inspect property. It does not say that. It says I have to have sufficient information to produce credible results. But you'll have people, you have to inspect it. Really? Okay. But USPAP lets me appraise personal property, and so personal property is like the copyright on Frank Sinatra's music, so how do I inspect that? And then they're like, oh, so get them to think. And we did the game and we did bingo. So these are all things you can do. Now, let's talk about these adult learners. Visual, we're getting lots of these. Some people in this room, including me, may remember television coming into your parents' home. Put your hand up if that is true for you. Some of you never lived in a world without TV? Put your hand up if that is you. Okay? Some of you lived in a world without computers. Put your hand up if that is you. Some of you have never lived in a world without computers. Put your hand up if that is you. She's my youngster over there. So here's the deal, folks. It's a huge difference, isn't it? It's a huge difference. I have a 3-year-old grandson that plays with an iPad. I have a computer up one day and he's going like this on my screen because he's not understanding that Yaya's laptop does not have a touch screen. He got bored one day and he said, Yaya, you need to download another game. At 3, I would have never said you need to download another game. Okay, so we've got a lot of visual people out there. Auditory is listening. We know about that. We're going to go into these in details. Read, write. Now, something that's happening in our culture that's really alarming to some people and a little bit unnerving to me. People no longer have the stamina to read long things. They want quick little bites. So what happens to War and Peace? What happens to, even The Tale of Two Cities, which is not that long, relatively speaking? What happens to a lot of that stuff? I was an English major, can you tell? When we have people who can't tolerate more than a quick little bite. It's like they're eating off the appetizer plate. And then kinesthetic, which is really important in real estate. So let's talk about this. The visual people see. They're following your facial expressions. And by the way, when you tell a story, use your face. Use your whatever. They follow your body language. They think in pictures. So if you're visual, and I say to you, just imagine I'm coming up the driveway to this house, and it is lined on either side by rusting corpses of former vehicles. There is a goat tied to the remains of a pickup truck. You're getting a picture of where I am, okay? Now, auditory. Listening and speaking. They like discussions. They want to talk to each other. Your voice tone, your pitch, your speed. Now, if you talk a lot, and we all talk a lot, you got to vary that. And by the way, when people get noisy, one of the coolest things you can do is step back. So they have to straighten their hair. And they will, because they want to hear what you're saying. So think about that. But voice tone and pitch. Now, how many of you had a mom or dad that you knew by the tone of voice whether or not you were in big trouble? How many of you grew up and opened your mouth and your parent came out? My daughter actually posted on Facebook the other day. She teaches Sunday school, and her kids were acting up, and she said, I opened my mouth and Melanie McLean came out. Yes. So those are our auditory people. Now, auditory people will be driven crazy by a monotone if we don't ever change our inflections. They're going to go, oh my God, kill me now. Read, write. Some people need to read and take notes. Now, I'm going to mention something that is not taking notes that you should not get excited about if they do it. Doodlers, crocheters, knitters. A lot of evidence supports they are actually able to absorb more information because they're doing that with their hands. So if you've got a doodler, do not get bent out of shape. That's how they're learning. That's how their brain processes things. A lot of read writers are self-learners. They will like online courses. They will just do their own thing. They'll get on that course and take it. I have taken some obviously great online courses. I have taken ones that have inspired me to find a sharp stick for my eye. It's like, please, will this end? Okay, now, kinesthetic. Really important in real estate. So let's talk kinesthetic in general. So who in the room is a musician? Nobody plays any instruments? What did you used to play?
Classical piano.
Piano? Guitar, flute, okay. Could someone tell you how to play an instrument and that would be how you learn it? No. What do you have to do? Practice. It's like the old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. Okay. So kinesthetic. Now, I may do better with this one. How many of you are athletes or were athletes? Okay, so what were your sports, guys?
Basketball.
Basketball?
Soccer.
Soccer?
Track.
Track? Okay.
Baseball.
Baseball? Now, those of you in sports, can I tell you about how to hit that ball with the bat? No, you have to practice. Now, the whole kinesthetic thing, a lot of research out there that's pretty cool about how people who visualize themselves making the shot will make the shot. So it is part mental, but kinesthetic is experience, moving, and doing. Now, here's the big thing we have with real estate. We can only do so much, okay? So we've got a brand new person. They want to become a real estate agent, and the first thing that happens is they land in someone's class for pre-licensing. You have, I think, barely enough time in the time allotted to you by the state to cover the material you need to cover. To be less honest, get them through the test. Because no one takes pre-licensing for any reason other than to pass the test. How many of you would agree with that? It's a requirement, we gotta pass this test. What will happen is that person gets out into the real world, and then all of a sudden they realize what they don't know. So, my daughter-in-law, who's quite bright, got licensed in real estate, she's working in our company. Lots of questions. I probably get 10 texts a day from Josie because sitting in the classroom and thinking about it and talking about it is not the same as being out in the field doing it. We all know that, right? We also know that the thing about real estate is just when you think you've seen it all, heard it all, done it all, something else happens. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And it's like, oh my gosh. So, example, she had a house where the title search revealed an old unsatisfied lien. She said, I think I remember hearing about this in class. Well, it turned out a credit union in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, had been acquired by another credit union. So they're going to have to go to the company that acquired the first company, get the satisfaction piece, get it prepared, find a live human being to sign off on it, get the darn thing recorded, all of which I'm sure was covered in her online class. But it doesn't click until that's something between you and closing in your paycheck. And she says, I guess it's going to take a few days. I have to get an extension. I said, yeah. Because trust me, the people that need to sign that are not as concerned as you and your buyer are about closing the sale. So moving and doing hands-on approach, they also get board sitting. Now, once we're past pre-licensing, we have a lot of opportunity for kinesthetic in real estate. So when I can, when it's a long broker course, like a 30, 45-hour class, 30 or 45 hours, I have actually taken people out to a house to do an appraisal, because that's kinesthetic. Everyone, we're meeting here tomorrow morning, bring a clipboard or a tablet, computer, or something you can take notes on. Bring a measuring device because we are going to go out and look at a house. We are going to measure it. We're going to take notes. We're going to do all the things in the field you have to do to appraise a house. That's kinesthetic learning, isn't it? We don't always have the chance for that. But those of you who teach math, you do that all the time when you give them a problem to be solved. And it's really important in math that they do it and see it works. Because otherwise they're not going to believe you. Would that be true, Virgil? I run into adults today who are still absolutely flummoxed by this. Investment real estate, as the rate I want as a return goes up, the value goes down. As the rate I'm willing to accept goes down, the value goes up. You will have a room full of people and half of them will be like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
They don't get it. And so they need to understand that because that's fundamental to the investment real estate. So that's your kinesthetic people. Now, here's how your brain works. If you see it, you retain 10% unless you have a very, very good memory. Some people have better memories than others. We joke in our family, my husband has a horrible memory, by which I mean we will bring out pictures of our family on vacation, and he'll say, Was I there? And we're like, yes, here you are in the picture. I said to the kids, we should start just goofing on your dad and claiming we've been places we've never been because he won't know. Okay. See it and hear it, 30 to 40%. See it, hear it, do it, 90%. That's one of the most powerful things for education that there is. Because a very interesting comment from Harry before class. May I pick your book up if I can wait? So Harry's reading this guy. And the author is John Gordon, J-O-N, John, no H in his first name. This book is Training Camp. The other book you said you really liked was?
The Energy Bus.
The Energy Bus. Now, the reason I'm bringing it up, and it's now on my list, I gotta go find it, is that he said, it just reminded me of things I already knew. So, Old English major quote, Samuel Johnson, man needs to be reminded more than he needs to be instructed. People need to be reminded of stuff they already know. And so, doing it is how I retain it. That's why you have to play piano. That's why you have to hit the ball in baseball. That's why you have to go out and make baskets. When we don't do stuff, what do we say we are? I'm rusty. I haven't done this in a long time. I'm rusty. It may be that you don't completely forget it, but you're not as good at it as you once were, are you? You're not at the top of your game. So if we can inspire our students to go back and start doing what we told them to do, it will stick with them. Sad truth is, a lot of times it's just going to go on that shelf. And they're not going to look at it again. Okay. How are we doing? Okay, I'm watching the clock. Yeah.
This is just an aside. Have they done any statistics on the brain with just hearing?
I don't know.
The reason I'm asking, as you get older, and here's the old lady sitting in the class, the doctors will check for dementia. And they say, we want you to remember these 3 words. And they only say what the 3 words are. And they'll say, now we're going to ask you what those 3 words we just gave you sometime later. And that's it. If you can't remember those 3 words when they come back to you later, they're going to say you have the beginnings of dementia.
And the words are pole, flag, and
not necessarily.
Oh, okay, maybe that's for the words from my
apple,
mom.
penny, and table. They
Yeah.
also, but I'm not thinking that's so terrible. It's just with hearing, and that the medical profession is determining if you are.
You would think your primary physician would know whether or not you have a hearing loss.
Well, they just put that in. They don't. They just put it down. And I think this is amazing. That's why I asked you if they've done anything with just hearing. Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't mean to throw you off.
No, but I know they've done other things with hearing, and I know there's been tremendous success with people listening to language, and anything you listen to right before you go to sleep has a very powerful effect on the brain. So I don't know how many of you, has anyone here ever recorded something to listen to yourself besides me? Susan, you have. What was it about, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, I'm just refreshing my Italian language. Before I went to Italy, I had some recordings and I would put it on the phone and let it play.
Yeah, me.
I just felt dreaming in Italian.
Literally sleep on it, right?
Literally sleep on it, yeah.
What about you?
Just information I needed to remember.
Okay. I have paper and pencil by my bed every night because I have found that if I don't write it, don't forget it. It's just kind of a thing. But what happened here? I went away. Oh, I did this. Okay. Never mind. I did it myself. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know about any other things with hearing, but that would be a very interesting thing to go and look up. Now, your 3 learning domains: cognitive, affective, and behavioral. And we're going to start these. I am watching the clock. I know they're bringing us lunch. Cognitive, that's body of knowledge. So if you're teaching pre-licensing, you're doing a lot of cognitive thinking because I got to get through that exam. I need to know what the law is in Delaware. I need to go sit and take that state test. Affective is attitudes and beliefs. Now, before class, I think it was Terry who said, so if they are not ethical now, they're not going to become ethical. Was it Terry who said that? It was Harry who said that, Terry and Harry. Attitudes and beliefs. I have a friend named Sam Martin, who's a real estate educator, just got his PhD, and he got it on whether or not you can affect behavior in appraisal students by teaching them ethics. Very interesting. I've not read his thesis. I don't know what all it says. I guess I would say this. If I believed that I could absolutely never change anyone's mind, I'm not sure I'd be able to teach the code. The course you teach is an effective course. Her diversity course. Now, I'm going to try and put this in a nutshell, and if you have a better nutshell, by all means, Trina, say it. But One America, it used to be One America, now it's just staff homes with diversity. The whole idea behind that is that the golden rule is you treat others as you treat yourself, but the platinum rule is you treat people as they would want to be treated. So you're stepping it up to the level of, I respect that you are different than me, and therefore I will accommodate you by treating you as you would like me to treat you. I think that's very much an effective course.
Yes, it's basically using common sense and courtesy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Behavioral, practical application. Now, behavioral can be anything from let's learn how to fill out the agreement of sale to some of us could probably get pretty busy this summer with doing a course on how to understand CFPB and the new paperwork we're going to be getting from them. And you all know about this, right? Everybody knows, or should I bring? I'll bring it up. Okay, so Ginger. Yes. They're going to hand over RESPA to Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. Here's what scares the daylights out of me. Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is a huge, huge agency. It was created under Dodd-Frank. It has a lot of authority, but right now there's no accountability. We were talking about it before class. The big thing that's going to really hit the wall for realtors come August is if there is one change on the settlement statement, which will no longer be called a HUD-1, it'll be called a closing statement. The buyer has to be given 3 days to review that change, and they are not allowed to say, I'm okay with this, I don't need 3 days. The only exception, as I understand it, and anyone correct me if I'm wrong, written into the law is if you're active duty military and you're being called back up to active duty, they'll allow you to wait. For everyone else, and this is what bugs me, they're saying, yes, we understand you're an adult and you have contractual ability because you're buying a house, but we still don't think that you could possibly understand these changes without 3 days to think about them. And the people writing these regs, and this is what you and I were talking about before class, think there will be no problem getting a 3-day extension at the drop of the hat. Well, we're all in real estate. We know this is going to be a mess. It's going to be an unmitigated mess because you're going to have situations where the seller has a backup offer that is higher, and the seller is going to look at their listing agent, Susan, and say, I don't have to give them an extension, do I? Nope, you don't. Or they're going to call you. And you're going to say, nope, you don't have to give them an extension because you had a contract and it had a drop dead date. So that's something that will be a practical application as well as cognitive. These will overlap. Trust me, average agent does not understand how this is going to impact them. And there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth come August. How many of you think I'm right about that? You probably have some stuff in the works for this, don't you?
Well, that and best practices. If you do settlements, you have to be qualified by the lender, or they're not going to send you a settlement package or approve you to disperse funds.
And so you're already doing training for best practices. That's what my title people and attorneys in my state are telling me, and that there's a lot of stuff. So do you have any opinions? I've expressed a few that are rather strong.
No, it's going to be catastrophic. You can't just reschedule a settlement 3 days beforehand all the time. The bank has to agree to it. The parties have to be okay with it.
Right.
I have people in my waiting room with a truckload of their furniture parked in my parking lot. They're ready to settle now, not 3 days from now. What are they going to do? Stay in a motel? Who pays for that? And whenever you delay a settlement, it's costing someone money.
Oh, yeah.
And who's going to pay for that? Because in many cases, the change in the settlement sheet has nothing to do with anything that the parties did wrong. They got a bad good faith estimate that now causes a change.
Homeowner association fees were wrong, for example. Exactly, you had your hand up.
I was gonna say, how many people have had, settlements that don't have a last minute change? Just one minor thing that's, oh, I forgot to put the cost of the home warranty, tell you about that.
So what happens is nobody will speak up. So I know there's oil in the tank, but we didn't get a measurement. And we can't have that on the settlement sheet because it'll change the sheet. So we'll just write a check outside of settlement.
Sure, which will completely defeat the purpose of having everything on the settlement statement and very transparent. I thought of another wrinkle when you were saying that, and think of this wrinkle. You've got the person who is doing a 1031 exchange. They have 180 days to acquire that replacement property. If they don't do it within 180 days, the exchange is disallowed and they pay taxes. There's a financial consequence. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare, so I certainly hope everyone in this room is a registered voter, and you give money to RPAC, and you know how to get a hold of your federal representatives to say, this is a bad idea. This needs to be fixed before it goes into effect, and because they're going to have people calling them in tears. You're going to have buyers in tears because sellers are going to say, I'm not going to extend too bad. And they're, like you said, everything they own is in the truck in your parking lot. So are they going to come live in your basement? Well, you don't have a basement. Lucky you. Can somebody look outside and see if they're ready for us? Because this is a good spot for me to end, but if not, I will.
Is the state looking at making any adjustments or addendums to?
We've been asked about making
5 minutes. Okay.
But the form does say more time necessary to obtain survey, financial, legal, but we've been asked specifically look at that.
Okay, so knowing that these can overlap, let's do these together. So pre-licensing course, would you agree that's cognitive? Yeah. Preparing CMAs. It's very practical. Code of ethics training. We hope it's effective. We're trying to get them to be ethical. License law. Cognitive. I've got to know license law. If I don't know license law, I break the law, they're going to take my license away. Appraisal courses, and I made that loosey-goosey. Could they be all three? Absolutely, because appraisers have laws. They have a method of doing appraisals. They have methodology, and then they have the practical application. Time management. Yeah, it could be a little, let's go back, I keep going the wrong way. It would be a practical application, but it could also be cognitive, because one of the things I tell people with time management is the first thing I want them to do, and I do this when I'm training new agents, what a concept training new agents, I want them to spend 2 weeks with a time diary. So I want them to write down and be honest. The honesty is the tough part. What they do every waking moment. Well, what you find out when you do that yourself, and I do it periodically myself as well, is you thought you only spent 10 minutes playing words with friends, but it was 20. You thought you only talked to somebody else in the office for 5 minutes, but it was 15. You see what I'm saying? And so people always say, oh, I don't have time, I don't have time. They're not being good stewards of their time, and they're not understanding how they're using their time. And once they do that, they can affect their behavior because they just get a little more conscious of it. Now, our cognitive activities, lecture, brainstorms, discussions. I like a room full of people that are going to talk back to me. I want them to discuss. I want questions. I want them to interact. I like it when I'm looking and someone's doing this. And even if they're doing this, I want to find out, why are they doing that? Effective. Clarification exercises. A group project. Consensus-seeking activities. Now, you can get into some really interesting ones, and I don't remember which by the number, but in Code of Ethics and Arbitration Manual that comes from NAR, you know how they have the case studies in there we can teach from? How many of you know what I'm talking about? So there's one in there that is very controversial. It came up in the cycle, I think, 2 cycles ago, 1 cycle ago, it doesn't matter. Here's the kernel of what it's about. It's a situation where 2 offers are brought in on the same property, one by the listing agent, one by a competing agent. This focuses on standard 3 in the code. The offers are identical, price, terms, and conditions. The seller says to the listing agent, these 2 are essentially the same offer, so it really doesn't matter to me which one I take. But if you'll reduce your commission, I'll take your offer. And the agent agrees to reduce his commission. Later on, the buyer who didn't get the house runs into the seller at a social event and says, how come I didn't get your house? And the seller says, well, because my listing agent cut his commission. His agent files a complaint saying that under standard 3, you had to let me know it was a variable rate commission. The listing agent said it wasn't a variable rate commission. When I took the commission, it was not variable. This was a negotiation I made at the time of presenting the offer. And the correct answer from NAR is he had every right to do that, and he didn't have to tell the other agent. Nobody likes that. In a room full of realtors, nobody likes that behavior. Now, I like to use the case study because I use it to talk about how you can have an ethical standard that's actually higher than NAR's, can't you? And I would have said to the seller, look, I don't care how you pick, flip a coin, put 2 names in a hat, however, but understand that I'm not comfortable with doing it this way because you're going to close on your transaction and you're going to go on your merry way, but I have to work with Harry. He's on the other side of this.
Oh, God.
Really?
So, if you see what I'm saying here, okay? So, a consensus seeking activity, that was so controversial in my state. Our state pro standards committee actually wrote a letter to NAR and said, we really don't like this. Are you sure you don't want to look at it again? And they said, nah, that's the way we see it.
Why couldn't you, in that situation, go back to the 2 purchasers and say, look, we've got 2 offers that are identical. Take 7 days and come back in, best and final, and we'll take the best deal and put them against
7 days.
I think the way
That's 7 hours.
I think the way
15 minutes will get lost in 7 days. You'll never see it. Throw 7 out.
I think the way the scenario was written, the seller said, I don't want to get into a bidding situation because I could lose them.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, but it was a fun exercise because it's all about standard 3. And I have a lot of people going, well, I would never do that. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't either. And then I had a lot of people going, I would never do that. And I thought, I bet you would. I think you're now ready for your lunch. Let's go. I believe we're supposed to get it out there and would I be right about that? Okay, cool. I understand there are non-alcoholic margaritas.
I wanted to say, I have a crossword puzzle software.
Do you?
And well, I probably lost it because I think I lost it going into that. You take that, you go to your PowerPoint presentation, and you create and then you find it out and you give them, a small prize to say, because I work with my RPAs, same software practice is find the word and don't forget that my circle is real estate. So okay. You know that my big Dixon Road fell out of contract. You know that Dixon Road with where e-commerce is where selling the one that's on
it's high one right now. It's on the base side. There'll be 30 or 40 emails with my guy today in my email box that I won't answer. Are they done enforced? And held this conversation with the buyer at this other house. Like,
no, they don't want to buy. course I know.
Privately, that's-
Anybody around, moving around, on our tour, not just probably.
During the 30 days, I answered
Everything was 295.
One of the things
Well, I mean, we did get almost every property was 295 square foot. But the fact is, we had 2 investors there. Which, you know, we had to heard of it. Then
Yes.
finalized the gas version. Yeah. Just want to let you know this. It's a solid. With the exception of that, we're good to see you, my friend. I love
honestly, I don't blame.
All commercial sellers, because of the right rate.
Thank you. Right, things like that.
Anyway.
Let's do that.
Hello.
Hi there.
Nice to see you again. Yes, it is. Oh, way back when. Yeah. Yeah, I know that. Straight from Belmont, when they took the, before Belmont. Yeah. Well, what happened? I mean, there's a lot of pluses in this deal. I mean, historically, because what happened was that they gutted the buildings. They took all the overhead, everything was scrapped. So you had basically a big building, 2 big buildings, one 18 that were basically gutted. And then the 3 buildings. The 2 of them are connected, I think, and then the one in the back is. So what happened was that I got e-commerce to come in and completely renovate. So they had like 6 months, 9 months free rent. But even the HVAC package that they put in was close to $100,000. So they put a lot of improvements in there. So they've improved the property for the owner, and now they're on a, almost in that cash flow. And they're very,
Oh, here we go.
How's the deli business?
Up and down. The weather is certainly not cooperative. And it's time for it to go. I've got it on the market. 30 years is long enough.
You'll come back, you'll in your office.
So are you gonna teach again?
That's why you're talking. Yeah. Well, it's kind of splattered on this plate. That goes. I can't even imagine how some of that is.
Well, I guess we're tired of the federal government being sure they can find a law that will fix everything.
It's going to be, if you like this, you can keep it.
Yeah. I mean, we had abuses with closing statements in the early 2000s. and we run up to the meltdown. And we all have stories from those. But I think pretty much it's not been near as bad. I had one agent tell me she's yet to see a closing sheet where there's a homeowners association where it hasn't changed. I believe that.
How are you? Okay, yeah, what's new? Are you in the office?
Street address where they live.
Right. We have to get together and have lunch. I think. That's difficult.
We went down that road. It did not end well.
Oh,
And I got back 3 months later.
But thanks for reminding me.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Oh, that's crazy.
It's really appropriate for a first time.
Keep busy?
Yes.
Well, I would not expect anything less.
Right. Right.
These are your wins. You were, where?
Next time they invite me with Harry, I only sub for Harry. So we'll get you, Vincent, because Harry's busy today.
So not true.
Yeah. It's my fantasy, I'll keep it.
Would take as long as, just the contingency.
Right.
Are you doing all kinds of practice?
I might have to revisit.
Real estate, wills and
Oh,
estates,
well.
and litigation. I try to avoid criminal.
Right. Well, that's good.
bankruptcy.
Yeah, and this, you know
Although I
what,
can drag them to
I'm gonna have to cut this short. I just.
That's okay.
They're serving lunch and I've got.
Do you want?
But, why don't we get together one day soon? And when is this thing going?
Harris Energy Bus about.
Well represented.
Killing teams.
You said that right there.
Okay, well, whatever, but we'll get together soon. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
So you're club that, is that what you said? Is it high school kids?
Yeah, I coached my youngest son.
You know, I hate that school.
Huh?
I hate that school. My son went to Friends.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of,
Every time we played, lacrosse, and we had a really good lacrosse team. When we met, Sally's in the championship, mine was what, 3 o'clock. My son, you guys have so many.
we don't do that with hockey because they play in Southeast Pennsylvania. So we get to play St. Joe's and all those.
I can't believe Sally's doesn't do something good in sports.
I don't even have, my kids are all grown, they're only 23, 25. I coached a guy for 5 or 6 years. He called and said, "Can you give me a reference for a head coach?" I said, "Absolutely, he's a good guy. He's a good coach. You got the job." He says, "Okay, now you're going to help me." Because I've been doing it for 4 years. Hey, guys.
Well, I throw in a little bit of the grocery stuff in. Yes, it is. So much.
Yes, and we've only had it once here. And actually, I missed the opportunity to do recertifications in our last year, and then they offered a webinar class, about a month or so ago.
So you were able to do that?
Yes.
So you're gonna try to teach ABRs and families?
No, but I would like to get. I'm one class away, I believe, from my GRI, because GAR has not been able to offer. Classes, because there's nobody else that is interested.
I remember. They've been on hiatus since I'm gonna take this one, but I'm feeling pretty embarrassed.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a glitch on some. That I had, and since my seller had signed all of his papers, they needed me for German. They needed to make sure.
You know, I sold those two on Discovery Lane, I forget what it was, 7 or 9 or 9.
Oh, what,
Yeah, that was a terrific
I
deal.
wish I had made an offer.
You know, they wound up getting those properties, the price was 85 each, yeah.
I know, but
That, I mean,
I was
damn good. Now, you know what you didn't know was, it was a brand new pool table, one of the units never used, with all the balls in the box, like they, brand new pool table. I didn't know really what to do about it, but the seller said, hey, we just don't want to know about it. It's not being shown up, we're not making any representation that it's there. It's separate. No, I didn't want to take a chance. I just didn't feel comfortable. I'd call them up and say, can I have a pool ticket? You know, I didn't want to create a situation where it would come back to bite me later on. And someone says, hey, you know, one of our people visited that property 2 months ago and there was a brand new pool table. Yeah, I didn't want to take a chance.
no, sure. No, same thing, right?
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah, I personally didn't have a place for it, you know, so it wasn't that I was. Yeah, yeah. But, it was beautiful. The property, you know what, it's I was over there the other day and I can't really remember, a local guy that had some kind of business, needing one building for storage and I can't remember if it was a plumbing company or something like that. It's in a local guy. One yeah.
Because I didn't know if you bought it and turned around and leased them out.
And you know, it was just like one of these things. I said, this is my price. They kind of met in the middle. The guy wanted 10,000 each more per building, and he was willing to offer, you know, like 20,000 less per building, and compromise that an extra 10 in the middle.
Yeah. They can get somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah, I didn't know what they're not on there at all. Now what about the guys that were in there before? I mean, they in prison. Now, someone told me that it was maybe the adjacent property, they were smoking cigarettes up, yeah, I think so.
Out of your hair.
Don't forget your stuff.
Don't have me to kick around anymore.
4 new messages.
Alcoholic. Another high. Alcoholic.
I don't think it'll work. I bet you it'll crash and do so. Well, you ignore it. There needs to be a human crime now.
Well, it's just like, I think there is that question, max, send stuff in 3 days ahead. When was the last time you got something 3 days ahead?
Never. No, I get it. Today, selling usually fires and maybe.
So that's why I was wondering, are they just going to turn a blind eye to it?
We'll be out the door.
And we are brand new setup over here, brand new technology. I think Bruce has taught from it. Harry, did you? Yes, Harry's taught from the new one yet. But we're still getting all the kinks and stuff out.
Oh, yeah, I was here.
Everything's all touch.
Windows 8.
Everything's touch.
Right.
The whole computer's all touch. You can control the electrical completely from here. Lights you can control from here.
Okay.
Everything is in your control regarding the classroom. And everything is touch screen. No longer do you bring your computer in. You can either save your presentation to the web or save it, you know, a Google Drive or whatever.
Google Drive, right.
Or bring a thing, you plop it right in there and you're good
That's
to go.
great. Yeah. I swore on Google Drive yesterday.
And like I said, it's being recorded, so you've got the camera.
We got audio.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah.
audio.
Audio, I mean, you've got
Great.
the works, brand new.
Yeah, then that was
new.
That's new because that wasn't here when the last time was here.
Mhm.
That's great.
Brand new
What are you doing
studio.
over there? Why's that room empty?
Well, we have pictures going on. We're offering pictures for $40. They can come get a headshot with a $15 RPEC investment attached to that. Come get a brand new headshot to go with the brand new Matrix system. That's getting ready to be implemented. Lots of all kinds of goody stuff.
All right, I want to get back up the road.
Mhm.
Make a little money.
There you go.
All right. So maybe in the spring we'll catch up.
Yeah.
Great. Somebody see someone's going to the newspaper. Maybe the.
Yeah, just put it in your comments. Okay. So instructors, are you learning something? Is this beneficial? You're getting a good feel? Yeah? Good? Good. Do you think that this is something that you would recommend all instructors to watch?
Well, previous evaluation, the parts of evaluation, how we keep attention.
John's doing our broker's licensing class. He's got them all day long sessions.
I was reading. One of the first judges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also bring a wisdom.
I get up and sales to you, the same thing about the new MLS contract, except they want to first of all, I said, oh, I have a coach. Oh, my gosh.
That was a way, this is, I'm glad I know. That was always the Washington, Pentagon, CIA.
That is such
I know, I'm the same way.
Yeah, but he's still doing he's hearing, and hopefully, and they make notes. Possibility. Yeah. Yes, and there's still gonna be something better. I'm sitting here in front of this witness. I said, well, I could not tell no one. Well, you're not supposed to do that. I'm right, just right now. I just do it.
That's excellent, actually.
Melanie.
Yes, ma'am.
They did that mental thing with my husband, reached out. And I said, I can't speak out. I had to speak out. But then they did it with me last year. I am physical. They never done that before. Because now these annual physicals, the doctors aren't supposed to lay a hand on you. So you're going in for your annual whatever. And they are simply assessing your mental state. So I'm just telling Harry, she's giving me the three words. I like doing this. I said, because I can tell you better if I'm writing and I hear it. And she laughed. I just
Well, my mother had Alzheimer's and they gave her that test. She actually tried to study the word.
Anyway, this is wild.
It's a nice change. And maybe we just have it on in the class right now. It's just time. But it, you know, there's
You probably are only.
And then you go line up.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to find.
Oh, really? And I thought that was part of the show.
Very good. Anything else or just, do I have to have another?
Yeah. She told me to.
I was wondering what I was gonna do for an hour or so. Because I have an appointment.
I did that. Yeah.
So my husband said, I was just gonna see if they sort of know that, fly back and crack the barrel.
How many places?
It's about, I guess, it was the largest town on the western side. Because the whole town is no longer an economy based on industry, but it's such as that, it's now just a service we face hospital. Very they don't use that.
Yes.
And Maryland is
So my instructors, it has been suggested to me that while you're here, it might be a good idea for us to catch a headshot of you while you're here, so we can put it in the advertising for your classes. So if Mary's teaching a class, I can put Mary's face up in front of them. Come take a class with this guy. What is everybody's opinion on that? Yes, no, maybe so?
You gotta give us more warning on that.
Hey, they just made me. The idea was just one of me, so you guys tell me. You're in?
I'm ready.
I think it'd be nice to advertise if they.
You all look fine to me.
I promise we'll touch up.
Can you Photoshop hair?
I do believe you have.
Okay, that's
Have
okay.
you, do you have the size of the pictures that we need?
No. Not yet. Okay. I know, I think Ben does. Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty good.
So, Angela, do you want to do that now?
There's
or-
so many different elements that's going on right now, it's like, I'm
You want to do that now or
after,
later?
we're gonna do that after. No, I want you to roll because
I'm ready whenever.
Oh. This is your show, Melanie.
Yay. Okay. So if I can usher everybody back in, one, a couple, we can say, things say to go everything from closing to close.
We all have an excuse, right?
Okay, I'm gonna get rolling. So behavioral. We're gonna use role play simulations and teach facts. And when you do training of agents, simulations and teach facts are really valuable. All kinds of things like how would you answer the phone? And fair housing. There's an exercise I use in the required course in Pennsylvania for our new agents. We have a special CE topic that newly licensed people have to take, and it has a module on fair housing. I give them little slips of paper. Everybody gets two, and they switch positions. And so it's how do you feel the question like, what kind of people live in this neighborhood? Which of course is just a time bomb for fair housing. And then see how they handle it and report on that with each other. Methods for visual, PowerPoint, video. Now, if you can put some video into it, it's a great idea. There's a course I teach called Anatomy of a House. I have some videos on there that I found at places like This Old House that actually show things like the digging of a foundation and installing of one. Flip charts, of course, readings and demonstrations. Auditory people, they are going to love your stories. They will remember the story long after. And some of us are better storytellers than others. Kinesthetic, of course, role play, simulations, practice demonstrations. Now, when we're teaching folks, they want to know, what am I here for? Why am I here? When will it be over? When will I need this? How do I do it? And who cares that I have this? It's basically all of this stuff. Why am I here? How is this going to benefit me? And for adult learners, how it benefits them is critically important. So you will have difficulty with them when it's something that someone else has decided they need to take, like USPAP, that they don't think they need to take. Now, I would expect that Bill has people who are happy to come hear him because they're trying to do more business with foreclosures and short sales. And so they already know the benefit of hearing you tell them about it. Would that be correct? So from that point of view, if you've got a topic like that, that will be very helpful to you. Understand when it comes to CE or mandatory code training for the board, there's gonna be a percentage of people who are still really unhappy no matter what you do. Because they don't wanna be there and they don't think they need to be there and it's all your fault. And it's your fault. Okay, so two of the big people that are giants in the world of adult education, and now this is Susan's topic, Malcolm Knowles and Benjamin Bloom. So Malcolm Knowles talked about adult learning assumptions. Benjamin Bloom came up with Bloom's taxonomy. Now, when I am home writing the course, I have a printout of Bloom's taxonomy to use the verbs in it in my learning objectives. Because when you want to write a course, you're going to have a learning objective. What should the student learn? What should they be able to do when they're done? And that can be as simple as, we're going to do a course on how to do a CMA, and at the conclusion of the course, you will understand the steps necessary to properly prepare a CMA. You'll understand how to pull comparables. You'll understand how to do the report. You'll understand how to present it to the seller. So let's talk a little bit about, Randy's out of order, yeah, Knowles first, and I'm going to apply for him. He says they want to know why they should learn. And they need to take responsibility. They cannot expect spoon feeding. And that's a big thing with adults, because they need to understand it's not your job to make them learn. Learning is their job, teaching is your job. Now, when I have a 2-day class with an exam like ABR, as soon as people know there's an exam, panic sets in. I always tell people, covering the material you need to know to get through the exam is my job. Listening to me and taking notes, or however you learn, is your job. I can't learn it for you. But you will get high levels of test anxiety. How many of you have seen that? Okay.
That's how you wake them up.
But you also have a very friendly way of keeping their attention by saying, at the close of business today, you need to know.
Yes. Susan's been in classes with me, and that's my little key for them at close of business today. They do bring experience to learning. They're ready to learn when the need arises. And again, back to the short sale and foreclosure, when that type of sale began to flood the market, there were a bunch of realtors who said, well, I got to figure out this stuff. I need to learn this. I need to know how to do it. They are task-oriented. They like practical applications. So you use this and you switch gears to bring them into the fold. Now, switching gears, I'm on the page that has this artwork at the bottom, which is a little tile line. Okay. Sticky notes exercise, and I know you use this, Trina, in your at home with diversity, but you can do a lot. You can do these in all kinds of topics. So either get the flip chart paper that's adhesive at the top, or get masking tape, and you're going to have topics. And let's just say we're doing risk reduction. So all around this room, I'm going to have sheets of flip chart paper. One will say fair housing, one will say seller disclosure, one will say public records, one will say agency relationships, one will say escrow. I will give the students sticky notes, and I will say, you need to put one thing on each sheet about what you can do to reduce risk in that area. So for example, fair housing, hopefully they're going to come up with, I need to know who the protected classes are. Yeah. I need to not answer questions that would appear discriminatory if I answered them. When you get into seller disclosure, it can be as simple as, I need to review the seller disclosure that the seller gave me and make sure it's filled out. And if there's any ambiguous material on it, information, I need to go back to the seller and say, on the one hand, you said the basement never floods, but on the other hand, you said you installed a new sump pump last month, so why do you do that if you never get water in your basement, or whatever it is. You can also pass around sticky notes of 3x5 cards, ask them to write down questions. Now, one of my mentors in the business was a guy named John Hamilton. John Hamilton was part owner of Poli, which was a private real estate school in Pennsylvania. He has since sold that, moved on, and John pretty much just teaches negotiation now. But John was a great mentor for me, and he said, and I've kept this with me, every instructor needs a flexible file folder of things to do if your time runs against you. So we've got to fill 7 hours. We're 5.5, and we're like, holy cow, I got one more page of this outline left. We got a problem here. So you need stuff you can pull. Whether it's a problem you can put on the overhead, whether it's a passing out 3x5 cards. One of my favorite things to do is say, we're going to play Stump the Instructor. Everybody write down a question. Now, let me tell you, that will kill a lot of time if you have a fair amount of people in it. Texting, again, sometimes you might want to let them text you in class. I am going to show you the game show at the end of this thing. I'm not going to make them plug me in. I'm just going to add together on my computer. Now, the visual here, the bottom of this page, you need to pay attention to copyright. So all of the stuff you have seen in my PowerPoint, I have paid a subscription to clipart.com and I have permission to use it. Or it is a picture I took and I got permission to use it, which is what we have on the top of the next page. So on the top of the next page, and this is a great picture, and this to me is one of those, a picture says 1,000 words. Because what do we have going on here? Well, folks, let's count what's going on. First of all, we have knob and tube wiring. Let's talk about that for a while. Second of all, we have someone who has placed a post as a support in a basement, and they put a piece of wood under it. And could there be issues there? Yeah, here's the #1 construction issue with those posts. Almost never does anyone put a footer under them. So the weight of the house will simply push that post into the basement floor. And here's the story I tell in class in Unit R&D, rip off and duplicate, as Terry Watson says. So I was doing an appraisal. It was an old house. It was a house built in the 1830s. Historical fact, concrete was not invented in the 1830s. As I'm walking from the living room to the dining room, there's just like a swale in this house. Like I'm going downhill and I'm going back up. And I said to the executor, do you have a problem here with foundation and settling? Oh, I think we fixed it. I said, okay. We get down in the basement. Now this is a triple brick center hall colonial. Triple brick is brick, plaster on the inside of the brick. Very solid house, very heavy house. I get down to the basement, and here between these two rooms, lining it up from upstairs, we've got like these posts in a row. All supposed to hold the house up on concrete floor. That concrete floor is not original. They didn't have concrete in 1830. That would have had a dirt basement. And so what would have happened was somewhere along the line, probably the woman of the house said to her husband, I'm sick and tired of all the dirt that gets tracked upstairs from the cellar. Concrete that basement floor. If we're lucky, there's 2 inches of concrete. Now, we have this triple brick house. You know how heavy a triple brick house is. The interior walls in this house are brick, with plaster on either side. And you're putting it on a post, and all you're doing is driving those posts down into the ground. So you've not solved the problem. Well, that's a great picture. I'm fortunate to be an appraiser, and I always ask people, I say, you know, I teach real estate courses. Could I use a couple of these pictures in the class I teach? Oh, sure, go ahead. Which is very helpful to me. So we can talk a lot about that, but be careful of something that is copywritten that you're using without permission, because you don't want to use that. Now, let's talk about Bloom's taxonomy, and I want to go here for a minute, and we're not really on your page anymore, we're just trying it out there. Okay. Bloom said, if we want someone to exhibit previously learned materials by recalling facts, terms, basic concepts, and answers, let me pause. Isn't that what we want to do in pre-licensing? Absolutely. We want to send that person back out to take the state exam, and when they take the state exam and they get asked a question about something like dual agency, they need to know the answer. So it's going to be who, what, why, when, omit, where, which, choose, find, how, define, label, show, spell, list, match, name, relate, tell, recall, select. Lots of words. Comprehension. Now, comprehension is the next level up from knowledge. Comprehension is you've got that information and now you're really understanding how it fits into a bigger picture. Some of our students never get comprehension we'd like them to have. How many of you agree with that? Yeah, sadly. But they understand facts and ideas by organizing, comparing, translating. So when you're writing learning objectives, here would be one I might do for an appraisal class. Compare and contrast the 3 approaches to value and determine which is appropriate for a specific assignment. Okay, so knowledge is, I explained to you there are 3 approaches to value: cost, income, and market. Comprehension is you now understand there's 3 approaches to value, but you can take it the next step and say, well, I'm really not going to be able to do an income approach to value on this single family home because there's no rental history on it. And so I'm going to have to do a market approach because that's pretty much what I've got. Okay? Application slides in right next to comprehension. And that's when you're solving the problems. Now, when Virgil's done with the student, and I bet he's good, and he has taught tax proration. If I understand the theory of tax proration, in theory, Virgil could say, you've been transported to another planet. And on this planet, there's 500 days in the year. And we're closing halfway through the year. And here's your tax proration problem. And if I understand tax proration, I can do that. Are y'all with me? It doesn't have to be 365 because I've got the concept. The concept is I take the taxes, I divide them by the number of days, that's my cost per day. I take that times however many days we've had, I get it. Now, if I don't get it, that's going to make me completely lose my nerve. I'm going to be, I don't understand what you want me to do. Especially techniques and rules in a different way. And this is building. Now, this kind of stuff normally happens in education until legislators mess with it. Okay, apply, build, choose, construct, develop, solve, model, identify. Analysis. Okay, now we're going up to another level. You're breaking information into parts, identifying motives or causes, making inferences, and finding evidence to support generalizations. So, I'm going to use another appraisal example. Now I understand when I get to this stage why I will make the generalization of cost approaches of limited value with a house that's over 30 years old. Because I've done the practical application, I understand the depreciation that goes into the cost approach, and I realize that the more I take away in terms of depreciation, the less reliable my final number is, and so I'm doing all of that with it. Keywords: analyze, categorize, classify, compare, contrast, all of those. Synthesis: compiling information in a different way by combining the elements in a new pattern or proposing alternative solutions. We often never get to this in a real estate class. You may have had this in a grad level class, college level class. Evaluation: presenting and defending opinions by making judgments about information, validity of ideas, or quality of work based on a set of criteria. So these are the words you would see there. Now, we're going to do a little exercise here in a second with writing learning objectives. But here's where I start. Start at the end. What should the student know or be able to do or understand by the time the course is complete? And then, when you're all done with everything, you have to find a sexy title. I have one, I took a basic valuation course where I had thrown in some automated valuation model stuff, and I'm calling it Zapping Zillow. Yay! Because they'll just love that title. You can get a little bit too clever, because I was in Nebraska last week at their convention, and the ed director told me another instructor had proposed a title of, is that a pocket listing in your pocket, or are you glad to see me and the commission would not allow it? It's a little bit edgy there. Okay. So with our learning objectives and our entry level courses, and again, entry licensing, we're going to have the knowledge we need to pass that darn test. We will comprehend it. And we need to have some comprehension in there, because let's take things like agency. So agency at the first level is a definition, correct? A single agent is an agent who represents only one party to a transaction. Can we agree that that's a definition? When you get into the nuances, and every state has nuances with agency, we then have to understand how that fits together, because you're likely on a state exam to get a question, if you're allowed to have negative balances in your state, which of the following is not allowed for an agent to do? It might be something to do with an agency relationship. I'm coming up with that, and it's not sounding as nice as I would like it to. Mid-level courses, application and analysis. Advanced courses, synthesis and evaluation. Now, some of you are here for the pro standards training. Let's talk about ethics for a minute. When we get brand new realtors, we bring them in and we do orientation. And that's, generally speaking, their first encounter with the code. So basically, that's an entry level, isn't it? We have this thing, we call it the Code of Ethics. It's got 17 articles. Let's look at these articles, let's see what they say. Let's understand what's in the preamble. Let's understand the aspirational parts of the Code of Ethics. Let's understand how ethics and arbitration work. And we've got a lot to pack into board orientation on the Code of Ethics, don't we? Because when they leave there, we want them to understand there is a Code of Ethics. You have become a realtor, which means you have agreed to abide by this. If you don't abide by this, someone can make a complaint against you. If that happens, here's how that will be resolved. And if you get into a monetary dispute with another realtor, you have agreed to arbitrate it, not litigate it, and here's how that works. So that's a lot of material, isn't it? Okay, let's notch it up. Now, we're not dealing with those folks anymore. We're training our grievance and pro standards committees. Well, that's a completely different level, isn't it? Because you have maybe brand new people who've never been on those committees before, and they may know the code, but they've never looked at it from the side of code enforcement. And what I find when I teach that, a lot of confusion. You have people who think the grievance committee should be judge and jury and Paul Harvey and get the rest of the story. And they're always shocked to find out, no, that's not what you do as a grievance committee. You have one job. And this is how it works. And an advanced course in that might be a level that I've not taught, and maybe you haven't taught, and that might be training professional standards administrators at the NAR level. So who would that be? That would be a very select target group of people who work for an association, and they are entrusted with administering professional standards. And so they need all kinds of stuff we don't teach the members. They need to know the forms, they need to know times, they need to know the procedures. Because if I'm a member on the grievance committee, it's not my job so much to send those forms out and make sure they're filled in correctly. It's just my job to give due process. So you see how that might work. Okay, now, here's what everyone's going to do, because there's blank sides to your paper. I want you to think of a course that you would like to teach, and I want you to come up with a couple learning objectives. And I'm going to give you some time. I'm going to shut up while you do it.
Actually, I'm going to go get some of that good stuff.
Work for me too.
That's pretty cool. That is good. Geez, the things that we can help them as instructors, right?
They're writing.
I assume. We're just teaching you math back here. You showed me something pretty cool.
Okay, well, let's share. Who would like to go first? You would.
Of course I will.
Of course you would. And this is,
Okay,
so what are you gonna teach?
realtor safety course.
Okay, to new course, I'd like to hear about this.
Yes. The objective, to protect the public and the agent in the course of purchasing or leasing real estate.
Okay,
To remind and introduce methods to help the real estate agent in the area of safety.
okay,
And to introduce technology to support the agent in the course of such.
awesome. I think I would probably, well, I'm probably more lenient than some real estate commission approval people, but I would approve that. Very timely topic. So you have apps for those smartphones? Do you have self-defense as well? And plenty of free advice like quit going to vacant houses alone.
Be aware.
Yeah.
Exactly. Have policy, office policies. What are they? And then one thing that I talked to the director of the Real Estate Commission for Maryland and said to him, we wanted to allow a little more time in this course for participation in stories, because there's a lot of realtors out there that have good experience and events that have happened to them that need to be shared. And they agreed to them.
I had a student in York, PA, and this was a number of years ago. The guy hid in the backseat of her car and made her go to an ATM, and she took out $200, which was all the ATM would let her take at the time. He had a knife though. He got caught. It was kidnapping and armed robbery, and he went to jail for like 25 years. And she said, that's a lot of time for $200. Yeah, yeah, so that's great. Okay, what are you doing?
Well, first of all, I'd like to, add on something. I was teaching a class a couple of years ago and had lunch with one of the students. And she told me what she does. She gets free cruises. And she has two things that she talks about. One is safety, agent safety. And this is 5 or 10 years ago. And she said, here are the do's and don'ts. Okay, and now I don't remember them all, but like one, don't go up the staircase first. You know, don't go in an empty room where someone could lock the door on you. You know, make sure you advise your sellers to put their jewelry away, put their, checkbook, put any personal information away. So when you're showing the house and someone says, you're gonna take a quick look on the second floor, there's nothing up there that can be stolen. So that was very good. And that was only, she had like the top 10 things that I can't remember. And this was for a free cruise, by the way. The second topic was the oddest house you can find. And she would go around the world, and wherever she traveled, she went to the local real estate agent. She says, I'd like to see the craziest house in this town. And she's made a history of just taking beautiful photos of weird houses. So she has a whole little thing of, here's weird houses. I took this in Germany or whatever. And so she gets a free cruise and free meals.
So is that your topic?
No, I just wanted to say he had safety. So I have a totally different topic.
Okay.
My topic, my dream lecture is the modern office building. Okay, because that's basically my background. There's a textbook in place of the complete building of an office building in Midtown Manhattan on 8th Avenue on the former Madison Square Garden site. Whole square block, I've kept the name. And there's also a video that traces the complete building of that building from its foundation to completion.
Okay.
So which you show, like this a class.
So what are my learning objectives?
Okay, well, okay. The learning objectives is learn everything you ever wanted to know about an office building. I mean, I would have the history of a modern office building, the creation of the elevator, the creation of sanitation, bathrooms inside the building as opposed to outhouses, HVAC and air movement. That's 3 things that are.
And you could bring in sick buildings there.
Which there are sick buildings as a modern thing, particularly Legionnaire disease, et cetera. Then you can cover the lease, terms and conditions of a lease for a modern office building.
It's really a pretty long course.
It is, I know, I mean, this is just some determining the value of the property by the cost, income, and, approach, and cost, and market approach. So that's what I would do. And I would do it in the town in the college.
Well, that'd be pretty cool. Okay. Jane, I know you're not an educator, but.
Actually, I didn't give a lot of thought to this because I'm not an educator, but if I were to have a course that I would teach, and I'd need to learn more about it myself on how to teach it, but it would be evaluating properly. And that's actually, I guess, more of from an appraiser's point of view. And I guess you would need to teach some of the principles that appraisers use.
Absolutely. I have a couple courses like that. And remind me to talk to you guys about licensing. Okay, Susan.
Well, I felt handicapped not having anything in front of me.
Yes.
To construct a new salesperson course. I would defer to Bruce, but my learning objectives would be module 2, which is the new salesperson course that will be able to explain your role as a buyer's agent and to construct a written offer for an agreement of sale using the state of Delaware approved forms.
That sounds great. Those are skills people need. Especially to fill them out.
Very basic.
Yeah, especially to fill them out. Okay. Bruce?
The course was called Designing the Thorough Sales Agreement. And the objective would be to develop an understanding of the inner workings of a thorough sales agreement. At the end of the course, the student would understand and be able to recognize common potential problem areas that our agreement may not address in the standard fine print. They would also be able to understand how certain sections of an agreement may affect other sections, interrelating the section. And they would be able to understand what happens if contingencies are not met.
Okay, very useful information for an agent.
I did not, because I have no desire to teach.
Okay. Ginger, did you do one?
Yeah, I did. It's just kind of off the wall. I just scribbled my name. I'm a doodler.
Okay.
And it's basically for new agents, but it could be for anyone. And it would be helping new agents to jumpstart their business.
Oh.
And it was a unique approach that fits your lifestyle, and it would be a team building thing. And it would be for any agents looking to make a living at real estate without making real estate their life.
Excellent. Okay.
That's my thought. And then I thought we could, look at different scenarios that kind of work for them.
That's good. Bill.
The idea I had was basically similar to what she just said, business planning 101 for agents. Since a lot of them come from other environments, many times corporate environment, not necessarily skilled at building a small business. So the learning objectives, obviously, learn how to set goals and objectives for your business as far as what's going to measure, how do you measure success, establishing those metrics to determine whether you are succeeding or failing in your business. And then lastly, determine how to hold yourself accountable, right, in case you don't hit
all
those
of which are
objectives.
really important, and you hit the nail on the head. And in my opinion, that is why many people fail in our business, because they did come from another business where somebody said, you need to be here at 8:30. We take your lunch from 12:30 to 1:30. We quit at 5, and that structure kept them on track, and they don't know how to handle the lack of structure. Yeah, very good. Okay. You're on.
I have pretty much the same idea as these guys. I have the same thought of, we give people a license and say, here you are, you're in business. I've owned a restaurant for 30 years. If we did that with a restaurant, well, most of them run a business anyway, but you can't run a business like that. And I had a class like this and I never renewed it, but basically running real estate is a business. How many listings do I need? How many buyers do I need? If I want to make $100,000 work, like you said, work it backwards. If I want to make $100,000 a year, and I don't think there's an agent who shouldn't be making 6 figures if they work this business properly. How many, it's nice to say I want to make
And my
that.
average commission is, let's make it easy, 5,000.
Yeah.
I need to have 20 closings a year.
Exactly. And how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
How am I going to do that?
And just keep breaking it down. That's how you yell.
Yeah. In my previous life, I was a sales guy. We always used to call it start with the end in mind and break it down to the ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, if you need to make 6 figures, how many listing appointments?
I
do you
think that
need
was
to
Tom
hold?
Hopkins, wasn't
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
Tom
definitely
Hopkins
Tom
thing,
Hopkins.
reduction to the ridiculous, when
That's
they were arguing over, $10,000 in sales price.
Let me give you another completely unrelated thing where people start at the end and work back, because you'll find it useful. When you are selling a building that's going to be repurposed, almost always, they will start at the end and move their way back. So for example, the elementary school I attended as a child is now elderly apartments. What did the guy do? He said, okay, I can make 30 apartments in this elementary school. And then he said, when I have them done, I can rent them for so much a month. But in order to get rid of the asbestos and lead, which was why the school district was selling the building, and make it ADA, and bring it up to code, I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, and I'm going to have time, that's more money, and then I'm going to have profit, which is not a dirty word, and I'm going to throw in some money just in case I find something I didn't know about, which you're always going to do. And that brought him back down to, here's what I'll give you for that building. And that happens all the time in certain types of real estate, as you agree.
Yeah, well, that's the same as the land residual analysis. I mean, you're saying, what can I afford to buy the land? Well, I gotta theoretically build the building, rent it out, pay for the cost of it, what's left over, and capitalize that income, and that's what I can pay.
Did you come up with one?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it's all right.
As a matter of fact, working with the senior buyer.
Oh, nice.
So everybody else knew someone with a senior. Identifying what makes a senior. Does it have to be somebody who's 50 or could it be somebody younger? Anyway, that would be the first objective. Find out who the senior is. Obviously, if they were selling, it would be one set of criteria. If they were buying, it would be another set of criteria. And trying to do both within the same course.
You need to take SRES.
Oh, I've taken that.
Yeah, it's a great course.
Yeah.
Same idea though.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I was certified. I just dropped it because I got tired of paying all the whatever. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I would have in mind.
Marie Kay, did you do one?
I did, and I'm looking at it from a different angle, from a broker's point of view. My big thing is always risk reduction and knowing what ethics is. Also, know when to ask for help and make sure that that new agent knows that when they see, oh, this doesn't feel right or this doesn't look right, go to your broker. Go
And get you involved
and then
early.
go into the attorney if it gets to be that, type of situation. And they have to know that that's very important because, boy, it could impact their career for years to come.
And that's a topic that is almost always a slam dunk for approval in any commission. Because when you use risk reduction and you talk about agents following the code of ethics and license law, they get real happy real fast. The time management courses are excellent, the jumpstart of your career. You just have to be careful how you write those objectives because the criteria in most states is how does this benefit the consumer, not the agent. So some of that stuff you can't always get approved. And in some states, you just throw it into GRI with stuff that does. So you might have a 14-hour GRI and you're going to get 10 hours of CE out of it and then 4 hours are not going to approve. Depends on where you are. Donia? Did I pronounce it?
I'm really new to the business, so I was thinking of all kinds of different things, but the one I guess that I thought that would have helped me maybe a little more, and also I'm not sure we think about this as much, is to develop like a better understanding of how to relate effectively and positively manipulate the different personalities you have to deal with, like on the phone and when you deal with them, and also other agents, how to work effectively with them. Because they are so different, and then you want a positive outcome, and not have a stressful transaction. So that would be something I would.
That would be very interesting. I'd like to take that. John,
a lot of preparation.
I can't wait.
Well, the idea has already come up, how to prepare a real estate contract.
Yeah, but you'd be doing it from a lawyer's perspective.
But whenever there's a problem in the settlement, it amazes me how often it relates back to page 1, or the fill in the blank form contract that we all use.
And see, if I were you, I would title that course, Don't Leave a Hole I Can Crawl Through.
Buyer's remorse.
I love it.
Because I once had a student in class say, if you leave a hole in the contract, the lawyer will crawl through it. And obviously, he's doing his job. If I'm his client and I say, get me out of this contract, I've changed my mind, he's going to go through that contract with a fine tooth comb, and if you left something out, or you didn't dot an I across the T, he's gonna find a way to extract me from that.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why you get the big bucks.
Well, sometimes. Correctly identifying the parties, I don't know how many contracts I've seen where the seller doesn't have the right to sell the property, or you don't have all of the sellers, say it's from the state, and you need 5 signatures, not just one. Identifying the parcel. The 911 address must match the parcel number, and there has to be a parcel map. The parcel has to exist. And I don't know how many times I see contracts to sell parcels that do not exist. Writing contingencies, if there's a variance that's required, you need to get that before settlement, not after. If you need to evict a tenant, you need to build in enough time so that you can get them kicked out for Jake in court. You can't have your settlement date 2 weeks after the contract signing because the tenant needs to be evicted. Contracts need to be signed, not just one set of signatures. I know I sound like I'm.
No, you sound wonderful to me.
A lawyer.
How many contracts I see where it has been faxed back and forth 10 times, and now I can't read it because the image is so blurry. And that would be avoiding problems like that, because sometimes you have a misunderstanding as to what exactly the contract said, and at settlement, I will pull out my contract and say, well, let's see what it said. And if we can't read it, then you can't really solve the problem anymore.
I'm going to add one, if I may, relationship of the parties. So we have a lot of people today who are married to each other, but they don't have the same name.
Yes.
And I tell my students in Pennsylvania, if you've got John Smith and Jane Doe and they're married to each other, you need to have that in the contract because we're in Pennsylvania, you need to tenants by the entireties. My mom actually, years ago, my mom was tough, fires an agent, because he sold a house to a mother and a son and did not indicate their relationship in the agreement of sale. And the attorney for the other side assumed, which the word assume does get you in trouble, but assumed same last name, this is a married couple, had a deed all prepared as tenants by the entireties, which you can't do with your mom. And so, that's one of my pet peeves.
Yes.
Who are these people? And like you said, legal owners and names, and I have hunting camps that incorporated, and they can't find any of their stuff, and they don't understand they need a corporate resolution, and they're like, well, we just want to sell the camp, we're all in agreement.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, that's what I would teach a course on, how to properly fill in the blanks.
Yeah. Okay. Virgil, is your course titled It All Adds Up?
First, I want to say a couple things before I get to my course. Because you started to say the word ask earlier, you said A. And a lot of people I know who don't want to say that word will say A double square. So that gives you a little leeway.
Okay.
You know what, I said to my wife this morning, I left, if I won the lottery today, what would you do? She said, I'd take half and leave. I said, well, I just won 12 bucks here at 6. Anyway. Anyhow, Bruce is already kind of, I call it a little different. And for a new agent, what's next? I think it's 101, 102. Many companies do not teach 101, 102. What does the listing contract says? If you can't list, you can't sell. So let's start with a listing contract, break it down to paragraphs. What does it really mean? Understand it. 2 is the contract itself, the sales contract, as Bruce said. And 3, if you don't know the company inventory, you can't answer the company's phone.
Yes. Wow. And may I also say, and this is so discouraging when I ask, because I have a class, how to look at a house. And I ask the question, how many of you, when you started in real estate, did the broker or manager take you out into the field and show you how to look at a house and tell you that is an asbestos roof, that is an asphalt roof? I'm lucky if I get 5%. They're out there selling and they have no clue. Here's my favorite story about that. So I get to a listing early, it's somebody else's listing. It's a 2-story home, someone has added a 1-story addition onto the back. And as I'm walking across the floor, it's vacant, so I use the lockbox scan, and I'm realizing I'm going downhill. Now the sensation of going downhill is never a good thing on a floor that's supposed to be level. So I went outside And whoever added this addition on must have not bothered with the niceties like a building permit, because they didn't have a footer and they didn't have a foundation. They had concrete blocks stacked on top of each other, no mortar, no rebar. And one of the blocks had dislodged, so the whole thing is just kind of sliding off the end of the house. So as soon as the buyers came, I showed it to them and I said, before you fall in love with this house, there's a major structural issue here. I'm not a contractor, but I'm going to tell you this is a problem, and if you love this house, you better get someone who knows more about it than I do. Even though I think I know a lot about it, I understand risk reduction. So they said, no way. Next day, of course, I get the call. She wants her showing notice. This was the real estate agent. I said, well, you know, the structural issues around the family room are really a problem. She said, what structural issues? I said, did you walk around this house when you listed it outside? She said, no, it was raining and I had my heels on. And that's, I always say to them in a beginning class, the first thing you put in your vehicle is footwear that you can wear in anything, snow, mud, cow manure, something that's impervious, because you need to walk around outside the house. You need to know what you're looking at. I'm done about the soapbox. I don't want to make you last.
Did you write them up? I took them to work on your last. Okay. So my class is going to be entitled "So You Want to Be a Rental Agent."
Oh.
And I guess probably because when I started in real estate, I was a rental agent. Mm-hmm. And now as a broker, you know, I'm dealing with agents doing rentals. So anyway, I would be giving them teaching them about the screening process, about how you own that house, so to speak, while you have a tenant in that house. Talking about what happens if the tenant doesn't pay, what procedures you have to go through. Talk about the JP court process, what you're required to do to give proper notice, to try to help keep everybody on the right side of that landlord-tenant code.
Yeah, very good, very good. That would be a good course too. Okay, so now let's talk about, we did this, and we talked about this, mouths. They need to know why. Prior life experience is good and bad. Let me just mention this. Some people get in our business because they bought a house from a really incompetent person. How many of you know people who got in our business because that's what happened? They want to be involved. They're most interested in anything that's directly relevant to what they do. Problem-centered rather than content-centered, and they do better if they're motivating themselves from inside. We talked about this. Now, we did this. Texting in class. There's software you can get, and I don't have it, and I can't demonstrate it, but I've seen it, and it's pretty cool. It's just not real cheap. So let's say you're teaching law or ethics or fair housing or anything where you think some of the people won't know the right answer. You're going to give them a text number. You give them 2 text numbers. Text this for yes, text this for no. You're going to pop a question up. Is this allowable? The answers will then show on your screen. The bars will increase. Anyone seen that? It's kind of a fun way to do it. And you can do it that way, with or without the software. Visuals, I use clip art as I said. So now, let's talk about our problem children. Who's had a chatty Cathy or chatty Carl? Oh. So what did you do?
Well, I'm not sure.
I know it's me, Bruce.
No, it's not. Yeah, there's one person that likes to come to my classes, is a chatty Cathy. And it can become very disruptive to the other students.
Yes.
And so you do have to cut it off. I mean, you try to be polite, you allow it to, run a valuable course, but when it becomes disruptive or repetitive, you just have to move on. So you say, well, I've got to take another question, we've got to move on to this, or we've got to, does somebody else have another question or something? You've just got to cut it off, and so eat the whole 3-hour course.
They will. And I also find with those people, I say, and it's interesting because they really just want to be seen and heard by the whole class, because if I say, I'll tell you what, we're going to have a break soon, and how about you come up? That's a little involved. And
yeah, I have to, I'll meet with you after class and we can discuss that.
And they never do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's also talk about the ones who are doing the running commentary of you in a whisper in the back of the room. So if this were a real life classroom, you two are chatting, and you're trying to hear, and Susan's trying to hear, and you can't hear because you two are chatting. So what are we doing with those two?
Call
Call on them, exactly right.
them. Yeah, how would you handle this?
Yeah,
Say,
would you
"What?"
care to share? If it becomes really bad at break, I've actually taken people aside and said, I've had a complaint that you're talking and it's disruptive to the students near you, and I need you to respect the people near you. Yeah.
And when we monitor from the professional development committee, we go and, excuse me.
Oh,
we stop.
I'm so glad that you have monitors. That makes my job a whole lot easier.
We have to.
Because then I'm not the bad guy. And I would say that's definitely the monitor's job to say to the person, you need to shut up. You're disruptive in here. Now, what about this? How many of you had this person? It's when they shake their watch. Is it working? Okay. Signing, obviously doing something else. I like the ones who do the crossword puzzle. I love the ones that bring entire books to class, but I always try to talk to them beforehand, and I always say, so what are you reading that's good? And then maybe we'll chat about books. It's really funny. I have had emails that said, it was so good, I actually didn't pick up my newspaper. There's a backhanded compliment for you. What do you do with these guys?
I try and engage them.
Try to engage them. Some of them will not be engaged.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, and here's the problem you have with CE. It says they have to be there.
Right.
It doesn't say they have to be mentally present.
Right.
One of CE stories from the trenches, I'll share a couple of my true life experiences with you. Number one, this was when we only had 21 hours of appraisal CE in Pennsylvania. We used to do a weekend. We did it in a hotel. I was in the western part of the state. And this couple came in who were middle-aged, and they had her father with him, who was elderly. And she said, my dad just had surgery, and these chairs are really uncomfortable. Can we bring a wing chair and come out there in the lobby area? I said, that's fine with me. It's okay with the hotel. Who wants to make an old man uncomfortable, right? He was out like a light. He slept the whole time. He was just gone. And I called John Hamilton. I was working for John at the time, and I said, this guy has slept all day. He said, Melanie, the regs say he has to be there. It doesn't say he has to be awake. Now, same hotel, another time. We're in a hotel. Keep that in your mind. It's a Saturday afternoon. I call a break. Something's on that they're playing in some sporting event. Everyone goes to check out the score. They come back in, and I'm looking, and I'm like, there is an olive in that glass. There is a lime in that glass. They've gone out and gotten drinks. Some of them. Again, I called John and said, John, they're drinking. He said, regs say they have to be there. It doesn't say they have to be sober. Unprofessional behavior, absolutely, but I've seen that. Anyone have a similar one?
Yes, that's happened here.
It's alcohol.
You know, this facility is not far from the bar.
Okay.
And I taught the brokers law section at night. And had people here who were clearly drunk. I could smell it when I walked past. I come to class after this time home. I'm that one.
Drinking's required.
I mean, you can call on them, you can try to engage them. Some of them will just be hardcore. Yeah.
Sometimes if you've got somebody that's up all night or something like that, and they're nodding off. Sometimes you just take a brief break and say, let's just stand and stretch for 10 seconds and sit back down. That just helps the whole class.
Yeah.
Without taking a break and leaving the room or anything.
Yeah, that's true.
I found it helpful to point out that there's a camera in the back of the room, so that when people are in this room and they're acting up or, not paying attention.
I just waved. You think Angela can see me? Yeah. Okay.
Just straight up.
Problem children, inattentive, much like bored, sometimes distracted, could have adult attention deficit disorder. I had a guy in class years ago. I don't know whatever became of this person. He did not get into real estate, thank goodness. He could not hold an idea in his mind for longer than 10 seconds. And then he was just jumping on to something else. But he felt compelled to tell everyone where his mind had next taken him, and it was like dementing to the other people in the room, and that's a problem too. What about the know-it-alls? See, they should really be up front instead of you.
No, I engage that person to if I say something, I say, if you disagree with that, feel free to raise your hand and let's talk about it. And because there's always another way to do a math problem, there's always another way to solve an issue. So if you have another way, I'd appreciate hearing it from your experience.
So what are you going to do if the information is incorrect?
Then we have to say, hey, I disagree. But,
Yeah, because license law is
you have to
fairly black
explain
and
why
white.
you disagree. But that's,
Okay, let me take a topic like license law. We're not gonna do it in 50 Shades of Grey. Okay. License law is black and white, would you agree? I mean, it tells you what you can do and it tells you what you can't do. And there's not a lot open to interpretation in license law. There are topics I teach, like appraisal, okay? You make an adjustment this way, you make an adjustment that way. You each have your opinion, you can expect your opinion up, you're entitled to your opinion. I can go with that all day long, respecting your opinion. But did you ever get the person in your room? Well, I just think that law is stupid and I don't follow it. Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's what happened to my friend Krista, who's an attorney. She was out, it was either South Dakota or Wyoming. I think it was South Dakota because Krista and I did the Wyoming Caribbean together. So what you need to know about the far western states is they have very few licensees. Like there's only 3,000 licensees in all of Wyoming. And their real estate commission puts on an educational caravan and they take instructors all around the state. Krista and I were gone for 10 days visiting 6 cities in Wyoming. It was a trip. Teaching topics, okay? I taught half the day and she teach the other half. Well, at any rate, she was on another Caribbean doing fair housing. Now, I want you to picture this. The person from the real estate commission is in the room. She's teaching fair housing. The hot button out there is Native Americans. One of her students says, well, I don't care what anybody says, it's my money. I built that building, and if I don't want to run into any fighting like Indians, I'm not going to. And Trista's like, oh my gosh. She said, sir, you have just explained why we still need fair housing classes. And then she said to him, do you understand the person back in the corner there is from the state licensing board and they can take your license? Well, I don't care. That's my opinion and I'm entitled to it. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, so many levels of stupid. I understand when I teach stuff, there are people who don't agree with what we're saying. There are people who don't agree with code. There's people who don't agree with fair housing. There's people who don't agree with license law. Most of them are not so stupid that they will say that. Would you agree?
yes.
And they won't say, well, it's a stupid law, so I don't follow that one. Okay, interrupter. You have some people who do interrupt. They will interrupt other students. They will intimidate other students. What do you do with them? Ask them to leave. Okay. I think that what I often have to do is say, can you just hold your thought for a moment? This person's still talking. We need to let them finish. If a lot of hands are up, I try to call on people when they put their hands up. So I might say you and then you and then you, so that they know I saw them. Now, one thing I have seen some instructors do that is horrible is they don't see whose hands are up. I don't know if they don't have good peripheral vision or what, but I was it was a pretty large room and I was there as a participant, not the instructor. And for some reason, the instructor was focused, shall we say, on this side of the room. You people were chopped liver. There were hands up all over the place and never called on. Finally, somebody, I don't know if it was a proctor, who said, you know, you have questions on that side of the room. And the instructor was like, oh, there's this side of the room. Yeah, you have to know where they are. Dominator or hostile. What's the worst hostile student you've ever had? Anyone have one that had to be removed? Years ago, I had one removed from pre-licensing. I was teaching for Penn State Extension, and this guy was bizarre. Sunglasses at night, never took them off, threatening to other students. Some of the people in the class thought he might have had a weapon on him. And he had basically scared everyone to death. And I went to the administrator and said, I've got a little problem with this guy, and he just got rid of him. That's why I like to have administrators and proctors. No one else has had someone this mean? Anyone ever have anyone pass out? have a seizure or die in class? Had a seizure that led to a death.
Not an adult.
With kid, I had an adult have a seizure and ended up dead. We just canceled class that night. After the ambulance came, I think I was ever gonna get anyone's attention back on the bundle of rights, which is where we were, so we just kind of let that go. Rule breakers. You do have some people who think the rules don't belong to them. Now, you guys having a person in the classroom is very helpful. But I know there are people in classes that I teach without monitors. They want to really push the envelope on, I have to take this important call, and then they're gone for half an hour. And it can get to the point where they miss too much time. Any other comments on how you handle these folks?
They don't get credit.
They don't get credit, okay. Breaking up cliques. Again, if you have a clique together, you want to break them up. Do that with, you can do a group case study. Divide and conquer. You've got a group of troublemakers together. If you get them apart, that will help. Switch your place. Again, if I've got a chatty Kathy clear in the back of the room, I'm going to come stand behind them. Group case studies, pop quiz. Take them aside at a break. When I get somebody who will not shut up, I sometimes will shut up myself. You do that too? And the other students are completely aware that you're not going to talk until that other person stops talking, and they will make that person shut up. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And then get back up. Discussion of this. I went through that quickly. Discussion. Okay. Let me show you a couple other things, and I want to show you the game. Memory tricks. How many of you use mnemonics? Okay. So fresh corn is fair housing. Phlegm is highest and best use. Physically possible, legally permissible, economically feasible, maximally productive.
Right.
Fresh corn, the E and the O don't stand for anything. Familial status, race, sex, handicap, color, religion, nationality.
It's kind of changing. Well, that's a state.
Yeah, you got state level. Dust is an appraisal one. To have value, you have to have demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability. Pegs is influences on value, physical, economic, governmental, or social. They will help people learn. Responsibility, yours to cover the material, theirs to pay attention. Let me show you this game, and I'm not gonna make them hook this whole computer up. I told Angela I'd send this to her later. I'm gonna move this computer. Can you guys kind of come up here? I was making sure I had it plugged in so I'm not losing my battery. Let me just bring this up. I think this thing cost me like $149, $169. That's not a lot.
It's a big round idea.
Now, when I use this, I do have to plug into speakers because there is sound. Okay? And it's set up like a Jeopardy game. So let me first show you how the game works. I'm just going to open a file. And I don't know what I have in here, so let's look and see. So you can either have people buzz in, take turns, one player mode, and then do one player mode. You guys see that?
Enter your name and you're ready to play. Okay, let's play.
So you can have teams. Somebody can take visual for 100. So it's true or false. It's role play game for visuals. Someone said true. Well, that's false.
I'm just kidding.
Kinesthetic. Which would they like the most? The answer would be role play, because they're doing it. And you just go through this. Now, you have to put the stuff in. Let's do auditory.
You're positively brilliant.
It's just being, whatever with that.
Oh, Nancy Burger. Huh. There's no answers there, that should be there, okay. I'm gonna stop that one. Now, let me just show you a new quiz file. So, if you wanted to do a quiz, I'm just gonna do a new quiz. You just save it, and then you go in here, and all you do is put your questions in inside the top. It's very simple to do. So you can put your show name here. And so it might be contracts in Delaware. If you name it something that I won't try to bring it up. And then call it that. And then we can have 12 rounds, category format. You can have her if you want it. You can put her on or off. You have a choice there. And you put her on, she shows up and says, is this a great job or will I get paid for just showing up? So you do a new round, and the category round would be, we can name this if we want to, but we'll just say who for category. You would put that in there. Now, we can control how many categories across. We can do as many as 6 or as few as 3. We can do as many 1 to 5 questions, however much material we have. We can hear, first category could be grantor. Second category, these would be questions I would have, would be grantee. Third category would be attorney, whatever I wanted it to be. And then they would show up, and then I'd have questions for those. So that's all you do is, if you can type, you can put your questions into this. So going back here again, I can export it, I can print it if I want to. I'm going to quit. It's going to ask me if I want to change, save it. I'm going to say no. I managed to get out of there. I did not want to. That's saving the one down there. This is where I live, folks. I've got mountains. I got snow.
We do here.
Yeah. This is called Al Morale's Game Show Presenter. So, for example, here's the laws, rules, and regulations. This is probably for appraisers. They like it. This is a great thing to do when it's after lunch, they're flying on you. Okay? That's what I'm doing. That's Santa.
Enter your name and you're ready to play. Okay, let's play.
Okay? Can't do that in Delaware either, so let's get it. And he's got these little comments. But it's pretty fun. They're pretty funny. And he does all these things. So it's just kind of, it is a great thing to break things up. Now, I also, who said that they wanted to take prizes? That was you. Where'd you go?
Oh, I think, did I have prizes on my, I told you I had my crossword puzzle on my find a word?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, where did you get that software? Do you remember?
No, but I think if you search crossword puzzles, something, it comes up. And quite frankly, I lost the disk and changed computer, so I don't even have it anymore. But it was fairly nominal amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, who brings candy to class besides me? Okay. I bring candy some of the time. I will especially bring it around Halloween and Easter just because there's a lot in the stores then.
Right.
But
And you need to get rid of it.
Yeah, but I will give it out to them in exchange for participation. So if somebody answers a question, they get a piece of candy. You can also do prizes for your teams. It's very interesting to me how competitive my appraisers get on their playing the games. They divide themselves into teams, they give themselves cute little names, and they go for it. Anyone have another game you play?
I do.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of it. It's called the unfair game. Now, I teach this in school. So basically what happens is you accumulate from home, and this is like really for middle school kids, but it's adaptable anyway. Like trinkets that, you know, a whistle, anything candy wrapped up as a gift. And then there's a math class. You go around saying, okay, who wants to answer the first question or something? And they raise their hand. They get the right answer. Okay, come up and get a gift. They reach in the bag, they get a gift. The next person that goes has a right to go for the bag or go for the gift that that person won. Now that gets, you know, people are shaking it, they're looking at it, you know, the kids, but I guess it's adaptable to adults too. I mean, you could just work it out where they have questions and answers and they get prizes. But the thing is, it's unfair because the person at the end winds up with nothing.
There you go.
The unfair game.
Any other comments on that? Let me go back. Okay. Now, I'm going to wind up because I know you want to get going. Real Estate Educators Association has tremendous resources for people who teach. And they are having a conference this year at the end of June in Connecticut. I will be there. There's going to be a lot of information about all kinds of things today at this conference, including online stuff. I said to you, remind me to talk to you about licensing. Okay, I write courses. I license courses I write. I don't ask for a lot of money, but everything I do is copywritten, as is everything that's original to you should be copywritten, and all you have to do is state on it it's copywritten, am I right?
No, you have to get a copyright, but it's intellectual property, so it's still yours.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I think the cheap way is that you just call it copywritten and you make people aware this is copywritten material. Now, to that end, I don't like to give out my PowerPoints. If I license my course to you, I will give you my PowerPoints. And I will give you the answers to all the case studies and everything like that. People ripping off other people's courses is a big problem in this industry. And whether they've gone through the step of getting the copyright or not, it's still theft because it's somebody else's idea. It's as bad as cutting and pasting somebody else's blog into your own blog. It's still wrong. The Rapid Conference is actually going on right now in Wichita, Kansas. I did not go this year because I was coming here and also it was right before Easter, so it was not a good time. A lot of ed directors from other states attend that. The other place the ed directors gather, they gather at mid-year for NAR, which is always DC, and they gather at the National Convention. If you're interested in getting to the next level and getting out of your state, you need to start making contacts with education directors in other states, and they will put out requests for proposals for places like Triple Play and NAR. Now, they don't pay you if you get invited to speak at NAR. You do that for the glory, but you get all this free publicity. You do get paid other places. If you're going to try and take your show on the road, you're going to need topics that travel well. That's why I really like my valuation topics, because you value property the same way whether you're in Delaware, Maryland, or Pennsylvania. But if you have an agency class that's wonderful for Delaware, it's not going to play well other places.
A friend of mine teaches down in Miami-Dade County, Florida. I don't know if you've ever been down there, but the classes are in the many, many hundreds.
Oh, yeah.
People, he'll show you a classroom and the place is filled with 50, 60, 100 people.
They're now the largest board in the state, in the country. And Houston's right behind them, and Long Island is now below them. And realtor boards keep getting bigger because it's all about how many director seats you get in NAR based on the size of your association. So if you want to get out there, you need to see when there's requests for proposals. My stuff out of state, I have an agent. My agent's name is Lisa Betts. She has Betts Works. She represents a small group of instructors. I don't think she's taken anyone on right now. She has us in various categories. You know what? The same reason you would hire someone to sell your house is the same reason I hire Lisa to book me. She's better at negotiating on my behalf than I am. She has contacts I don't have. See what I'm saying? CDEI. If you want to do distance education, you have to get certified, and you take the initial course, which of course costs money, and then you have to renew it. However, a lot of states are now offering distance education, but ARELA, which is the Association of Real Estate License Law Officials, has a requirement that you have a real life instructor attached to any distance education offering, so that if a student has a question about the content, they can contact an instructor who can talk to them about it. So distance ed always has two people they've got to have. They've got to have the tech person who gets the calls from the person who says, my computer froze up and I can't get past module 1, what do I do? And then they also need the instructor. And I've done that for NAR, for the RSPS course and a couple of other things, but CDEI is just another way to get, if you want to do more writing and you want to do stuff online. I do have a course online at Realtor University. It's Pricing the Oddball, and check it out if you want to. I wish I could give it to you for free, but I forgot to get a code for doing that. But anyhow, to contact me, this is how you're going to find me. There's my email. I tweet only about real estate. I am not one of these people that thinks anybody cares what I have for breakfast. So I don't tweet about it because I don't even care. The Facebook page, Melanie Jackson McLean, is my personal page. You will see pictures of my grandchildren. You'll see pictures of my garden. Melanie J. McLean, Real Estate Educator, is strictly for people in real estate, and it's stuff that's useful to people who sell real estate. And I use that to get people into my classes. If you find me on Facebook, I promise I will invite you to the Real Estate Instructors page. The other thing is, if you've got an interest in appraising, there are a bunch of appraiser groups on Facebook that are great. And it's very interesting to me how this medium is working, because people are posting questions. What do you think about this? Whatever. My state association of realtors has a group that is a closed group just for Pennsylvania realtors. Does Delaware have a similar one, or does no one know? If they have one, you might want to be in there as an instructor. You know, somebody asks a question about something and you can answer it, and then you can say, you know, by the way, I'll be teaching this next week in Sussex County. I'm starting to fill classes through social media. Don't underestimate it. Just because you're not doing it doesn't mean a lot of other people aren't. Okay, did you learn things you could use? Yeah. Anything you're going to stop doing? Anything you're going to start doing? Okay. Well, please feel free to contact me. I know I needed to get you out by 2 at the latest. I was trying to end a little early. I saw people getting antsy, and I don't blame you. It's been a long day for you. Please feel free to call me, email me, whatever. I'm glad to get a hold of you, to talk to you. And good luck. Okay.
I think I stopped sharing now, right? I don't know how to do this.
I wanted to say something. This Miami-Dade County. I actually contacted their board and said, what class would you like to be taught? What's missing? And they said a class, 3-hour class, buy versus lease.
Oh, so did you write one for them?
I wrote one, but I didn't get much further than that. I wrote it, and I sent it to my buddy who teaches there. And he had all, this is a question, this is a question. I went back and looked at the outline. There was so many comments and everything. I said, this is not even to the board. It was just to my buddy who teaches there. I said, I don't know if I want to go, but they pay a true amount. They pay a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
They pay a lot because they have hundreds and hundreds of people in the
I'm
class.
a Facebook friend with the executive officer there. And I've been working on her to get me in, and I'm still on it. He's saying to her, when are you bringing me in for evaluation course?
Melanie, I need to get the name of the software you use for Jeopardy team.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let me turn this back on. Next year, nice to see you. Happy Easter to you. When are you going back to Italy? I love this story though, because I always understood that if you could dream in a foreign language, that meant you could totally master it. But did you speak Italian as a child?
My parents spoke dialect from their parents who came over and nationalized Italian language. Italian is the standard language. So I never did that as a child, but when I started Italian,
power of attorney, Jack still has responsibility for it.
Maybe she sees the day.
I need, when I go back, I need 5 days to get my ear back.
So John Ford is here.
Your parents are gone now. So are they good for you?
86, 78, 7.
You're so young.
Did you tell them that?
Yeah. You're in the office.
Yeah. So can they understand you at all when you speak?
Yes, it's fun. Yes, we don't speak that much at home. I mean,
Sure.
my grandparents did not want to tell anything about
Well,
in the
again,
house because my grandfather would
short
say,
sale.
I'll see you back at the office. I've got,
I'll get that, I'll get that.
yeah, just let me know, because that's something I'd like to do.
have you used to Bruce?
You too, good to see you again.
I will see you.
So, yeah.
Okay, so it is game show plus. But I'm gonna give you, and there's some wonderful
Again, I
books.
sent the email out.
It's www.almoral.com.
Okay.
ALMORALE.
All right, sounds good, pal. All right. No worries. I had a text from John and a voicemail from you, so I'm gonna call you first, see what's going on. All right, sir.
Well, that's a good idea.
Sorry, can't tell you stories.
Well, the nice thing with this is,
Yeah, exactly.
whatever you want to do,
All right,
you want to do, but
I appreciate it.
you don't know after lunch is like the worst time of the day.
Mhm.
Especially if they've eaten a really good lunch, and I've been in hotels where they decide, let's give them turkey, gravy, mashed potatoes,
Yeah.
corn, pie, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there, and so you think, okay, we need to do something to get them moving again. And it's very competitive.
Well, I do it in sales meetings too, but I didn't have the.
It's great software.
Yeah.
It's great software. I'm gonna put this up over here and tell, I've got to wait for my car now, they come having trouble with my car, so I'm gonna camp out here if they don't mind.
Thank you very much, Melanie.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Melanie, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll
guys.
see you next month, eh?
Yes, in mid-year.
That's me.
Thank goodness
All
my
right,
daughter
take care of yourself.
goes.
All right, come out there. Be careful, see you soon.
I didn't think you could fill your seats in those classes. I think you could fill those seats.
Which yeah, we are. We've been.
Although they're waiting.
They are, especially here. We've been doing short sales here for at least 10 years now. We're up in Wilmington, but we have a house down in Bethlehem. So we, Ocean City, Maryland, here. And what's happening more here is the inward stuff, on the side of Ocean Highway. Yeah, we're being pretty, pretty pleasantly surprised with the amount of people that we still get in our class. Yeah, it varies location to location though, you know. That was excellent. I like some of the ideas.
Can I sit here playing on the internet?
If I sell you an asphalt.
It is a little warm in here. Thank you for noticing.
We'll make it cool.
The admin fee. Yeah. Well, you know,
You guys all teach classes?
whatever. And the Martin and the meeting was, you want me to sell 450, and I don't make a dime. Now, there is something.